that although we were not happy on the day he was elected, some of our colleagues perhaps has seen something good in him. It wasn't the NDC that put him there for him to do the bidding of the NDC. Perhaps people felt that he could be someone who will bring all of us together. Yes. There are things that we cannot say into the camera. But Mr. Speaker is hurting democracy. Yes. What Mr. Speaker is doing is to rehearse what the NDC is likely to do should they lose power, to bring chaos, to cause confusion.
Well, that's Alexander Afenyo-Marking there. He is the leader of the NPP caucus in this 8th Parliament. Good morning from our studios here at Adesawe in Accra. Welcome to the Key Points. On this program, we discuss the most topical issues of the week with our well-informed, passionate, committed Ghanaian panelists who have nothing but the interest and development of this country at heart. We're live as well on the channel 279 on 3 FM. Mind the authority. That was at the press conference at the instance of the Speaker, and he said recent developments in the legislature poses a challenge to the relevance of Parliament in our democratic space as a country. But the era where, in his view, Parliament was the rubber stamp of the executive was over with the election of a hung Parliament at the polls in 2020. The Speaker had a number of things to say at that press conference, including expressing his commitment to the fact that he is developing and strengthening this Parliament for the future so that subsequent parliaments will be strong. We'll have a conversation this morning because the Speaker pointed to a number of very salient and important issues talking about the parliamentary system in this country and how it's also supposed to be working with the other arms of government, taking into consideration what is already at the Supreme Court. And by November 11, we will get to know the Supreme Court's position on this matter of these 4 seats that were declared vacant by the Speaker. Now, in the run-up to that, the NPP caucus in Parliament triggered a recall of Parliament, and the Speaker had no other choice, based on the standing orders of Parliament, to recall the House on Thursday. But, as was the expectation of many, the Speaker was left with no choice than to adjourn the House Synod indefinitely, again, due to the absence of business for lawmakers to deliberate on, following the failure of the Business Committee to meet and prepare the necessary agenda for the House or for that particular sitting. Now, this recall, although initiated by the NPP caucus, had been expected to address what had been described as several critical issues of government and also government business. But the NPP failed to appear in the chamber. The Speaker expressed disappointment. The NPP addressed a press conference afterwards, accusing the Speaker of a number of things, including, as you heard Alexander Afenyo-Marking there, the Speaker leading the chaos in Parliament. Is that really the case? And we've already seen a statement from also the NDC caucus in Parliament demanding an apology from Alexander Afenyo-Marking. But as we see things play out, to what end? We'll have a conversation as to what has to be done going forward to address this impasse, this situation in Parliament, which is happening to the detriment of all of us, because we're getting to know how much it costs all of us when Parliament is recalled And if some things are not done by this parliament, we'll have a conversation. But also, all the surveys and polls ahead of election day, December 7, have pointed to one thing being the most important issue on the minds of Ghanaians, the economy. And that was consistent with all the issues that informed the voters' choice in the United States of America. The economy. It is all about the economy. Question this morning is, what is the state of your economy? We'll have a conversation because in the mind of government, the indicators are trending towards pre-COVID statistics. But how does that reflect directly in the lives of the Ghanaian people? We'll have a conversation this morning. Jobs is also on our minds because the fulcrum of every economic growth is the creation of jobs. We've had jobless growth in this country before, but the flag bearer of the MPP has been consistent in putting out some figures when it comes to jobs that have been created over the last almost 8 years. We'll have a conversation this morning about that in the interest of you, the Ghanaian people. As always, you are an integral part of the conversation. There are many ways you can connect with us on Facebook and on X. We'll read it out in as many as possible. On behalf of the rest of the team, welcome to Key Point. We're back shortly after this quick break. My guests already trickling in. They'll settle down. The conversation starts in a bit. My name is Alfred Okansi. Welcome.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
Santex and Crown Paints. Excellent paint that is resistant to peeling, mold, algae, and fungus. It comes in a wide range of colors with high opacity, high spread rate, and dries fast with no afterpaint stench. Santex and Crown Paints are distributed by Bamson Company Limited. Locate us at Sickens House, Old Fatima Road, South Industrial Area, Accra, or any of our branches in Atabraka, East Legon, Tema, and Adum in Kumasi. Call or WhatsApp us on 0573839640. Santex and Crown Paint. It's not just paint, it's personal.
I'll have that one friend. Always by your side for the big moments. And ready to assist. He's always got his eyes on the prize. And his heart in the right place. Where would we be without our BFFs? This season, enjoy all 380 Premier League games with your BFF GoTV. Upgrade or reconnect to GoTV Super Plus for the discounted price of just 265 cedis today. GoTV, love it.
The luckiest.
Star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere.
8K. Hey, you can get an 8K. Get a packing from your one line. Hey, wait.
You can put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey, go bill radio. We have star 712. It's what you follow. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. Aha, and now with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Ah, mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or don't. Let's choose buy tickets for adults.
Love you, boo boo.
So maybe a straight to option 4. Now, hold on. You need to buy tickets worth $50 for. Yes, you can buy random or preferred. I'll see random tickets. Yes, you can buy the random. The system chooses a random number. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body,
So good, miss.
Hey, there we are. Tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
Dr. Baumia once said,
teachers are suffering. Teacher trainees are suffering. Nurses are suffering. And nursing trainees are suffering. Patients are suffering. Students are suffering. Traders are suffering. Pensioners are suffering. Drivers are suffering. Contractors are suffering. Civil servants are suffering, and farmers are suffering. Fishermen are suffering, and industries are suffering. Artisans are suffering, and Kayaye are suffering. The disabled are suffering, and men are suffering. Women are suffering, and children and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported. All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
Get ready for the culinary showdown of the year. Kitchen Wars! Champions will rise.
Tell me what you're cooking.
Who will impress our judges and who will go home? Tune in to find out. This is Kitchen Wars Season 3.
Kitchen Wars is brought to you by Kivo Foods, Everpack, Mazim Foods, Miss Cookie Spices.
Galamsey, claiming lives.
A friend introduced me to Galamsey. We sought out for spiritual help. So the fetish priest asked me to bring a goat and a gold. It was a success. I came out with a gold, but the cave came down on them and they all died.
They buried a live goat. The way the goats died is the same way his friends also died. So it was an energy exchange.
A child that doesn't have the guidance of the parent will want to take on things just so they can survive.
Confessions shows this Saturday at 10 p.m. only on TV3.
Gender equality is a subject that haunts Africa, specifically Ghana.
The good thing about the act is, for the first time in Ghana, you have a legal framework which makes it mandatory. A lot of women don't go into leadership not because they are not qualified, but because of the attacks they have.
You can have an act, but if the cultural norms don't change, it's as good as you writing it on a napkin and throwing it into the ocean.
Now we're going to make sure that we can implement it and see it actually working.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad, MTN,
Yaz Toothpaste and Brushes, Woodin,
Cowbell Coffee, Betway.
Besides the cash prize, the perks that comes with winning, the trip abroad, the top intern also gives you the opportunity to gain advanced studies in any field around the globe.
Are you the next top intern? The Media General Registration Portal is now open to the public. Graduate with at least a second-class upper degree from any reputable university can apply for this year's top intern competition. Simply scan the QR code on your screen to submit your nomination.
Thanks to the top intern, I have transitioned from an intern to a Stardust officer here at Media General. This competition doesn't only enhance your skills, it opens doors for real career opportunities.
The top intern takes you beyond the internship.
be threatened.
When I was young, I think when we were in the senior high, we were not calling it senior high, we were calling it secondary school. There was some song, it's too late to say that you are sorry. After you broken my heart. When I needed you to satisfy my soul. You turn your back and said,
please.
When I was young, I think when we were in the senior high, we were not calling it senior high, we were calling it secondary school. There was some song, it's too late to say that you are sorry. After you broken my heart. When I needed you to satisfy my soul. You turn your back and said,
Anyway, that's the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Sumana, Kingsfolk Bar being there. Well, he could afford that song, in fact, going back memory lane and recalling it to buttress a point that he was making at that press conference. But welcome back from that break here on Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. And for those of you listening to us in those other radio stations across the country, welcome. Welcome. Now, joining me for this all-important conversation and the issues outlined, the Honourable Andy Apiakobi is Member of Parliament for the Asante Achim North constituency. He's going to be joining us in a bit. Caught up in a little traffic, but he will be here shortly. And then also the Member of Parliament for the Boem constituency. He's a member of the Public Accounts Committee and a number of committees in this 8th Parliament. And one of the key persons steering the affairs in the Oti region for the NDC, the Honourable Kofi Adams. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Also joining us is a globally respected conflict and mediation expert, and is a labor consultant as well, a former minister, deputy minister. He served this country in many, many areas. Talking about none other than Austin Game. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Alfred. Thank you.
With us this morning as well is private legal practitioner, one of the foremost human rights lawyers that we have in this country. He has contributed to the legal jurisprudence in Ghana, and he continues to do that as well. He's the leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups and also the convener of the Kumepreku Reloaded demonstration. Martin Pebu, good morning to you, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, morning, Mr. Kansi. Morning. You know what, Mr. Kansi, of course, as usual, I have a few greetings to do before we zoom in. But before I greet Gamanche, Yasan, Tuaso Fekufu, and the rest, something just hit me, you know what? And I think, look, we need the experts. I don't usually buy food from outside. No, I don't like even all the lazy hotel foods. No, I just like to eat food from my home, right? But you know, this cost of living crisis thing, I just, last week I brought kimchi.
Yeah, we're going to have a conversation.
So yesterday,
today,
I decided that my assistant should buy me wachi. So let me see. The wachi I got, this morning as I was rushing here, I forgot. Okay, but the kuku is here. We'll soon put it up here. The wachi was 31 Ghana cedis, right? So I just decided to multiply 31 by 30 days. So, and I'm getting 930 Ghana cedis. So if you pay an employee 3,000 Ghana cedis a month, oh, and you know, private sector, you're a small lawyer, you pay an employee 3,000, you think you've done well, man.
That's true.
Then it turns out that 1/3 of it is just lunch. Yeah.
And
the 31 Ghana cedis times 30.
Yes.
You're getting 930 Ghana cedis.
That's assuming the person spends 31 cedis every day on food.
Yes.
And
that's just lunch.
Much of it as well be taken by transportation and the others.
So it doesn't come in. So I'm like, I'm doing it. Unless maybe I got it wrong.
No, you're right.
31 times 30. You're getting 930 Ghana. So with 3,000 Ghana, you know, you maybe feel, oh, you've done well. I pay a 3,000 Ghana. You think you've done well. But 1/3 of it, that's lunch. Oh, no, we can't. Charlie.
We'll 31, depending on the location of your office. If your office happens to be located in some other areas where a lot of offices are located, you may not even get 31. It will be higher.
Yes. Yeah, you're perfectly right.
The 31 is when you send a person very far, possibly from your office, to have to spend a lot to even get there. That's where you will get the 31.
We'll have that cost of living conversation. All of it. We'll bring it home. Beyond what the economic statistics will say.
Do that. Let me greet Gamanche. Hey, because Gamanche, you can't start this program without greeting Gamanche. Gamanche, Kentucky Teko Churu the second. Good morning. Morning once again. Of course. Your question still remains, how can Cecilia Dapai alone have so much money under her bed? That is the question duty bearers have to answer. You need accountability, and I'll continue to repeat that question here. Gamanche is asking duty bearers, Yoko, Attorney General, how can one person have so much money under her bed? Number two, Kofi Aflu's petition to the Speaker to force Auditor General Johnson Ekwuamwa Esiedu to bring the report on the missing 52.5 billion Ghana cedis. We are still waiting since December 4th. We will not forget. We need that report out. 52.5 billion. How much did we go to the IMF for? For crying out loud. And that was December 2020. That's way more than how much we've gone to borrow from the IMF. You can't have this money missing for 4 years and then it's like business goes on as usual. We will not take that. Of course, Yas Antoine Sofo, former Chief Justice, good morning. Good morning. More fire. We need you to continue to step out to, help the governance of this country. And finally, Domahini, Osiadio, your Dr. Ajiman Bedu II. Good morning.
Great. Now, I received a letter from one of our viewers on one of the issues that you spoke about, but quickly, beyond you consistently talking about this 51 billion, over 51 billion that Mr. Aflu has petitioned the Speaker on, what can be done to cause some action to be taken? Because this amount of money is no chicken change. And if it is missing and it can be found and accounted for, beyond the advocacy here, what can be done?
Yeah, so we have to go into court. Looking at it, we have to go into court. But you see, because in recent times, some of these cases that affect government, we don't usually get that much success. You are wondering whether, and it's true, the best time will be to wait until after the elections, you see, because this affects governance. You remember the last time we went into court over this Domlevo matter? Yes, I admit we too, at a latter part, we're also not forthcoming with filing our processes, but the larger majority of the delay is on the Supreme Court. And why? Because they wanted to give Akufo-Addo enough time. So with the way that case was handled, slow, and by the time the Supreme Court acted, Akufo-Addo had gotten away with murder. It gives me a bit of, I'm unsure. You see, I'm unsure. And don't forget, there's even a second case against Habib, what is it called? Honorable Habib, your colleague. Which constituency is that?
Tolong.
There's a case against Habib for stealing. You see the Australian record, a stealing conviction. The case is being in the Supreme Court over 2 years. It's not been dealt with. So, and there are other cases. So when it's like that, you see a certain pattern. Because Habib's case is in over 2 years. As a court, if you see that thing and you see a conviction stealing, how can you not go for it? You see this, yet when it came to this 4 MPs case, quickly the Supreme Court say, oh, we'll give judgment November 11. Habib's case is been over 2 years. Still,
so you're going to consider going to court on this?
Yeah, but you know, when you look at certain cases, when they affect government, then they are slow, then you see a certain disturbing trend.
Just a quick one. Just a comment there, just a quick one. You see, Lawyer Martin Pebo is right. The Auditor General is an officer of Parliament, actually. That's how it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, it's been very difficult sometimes, even Parliament directing the Auditor General to do certain things for us. It is what he does and bring, which get laid. That is now referred to the Public Accounts Committee to look into and bring a report for consideration at plenary. Then, once approved, we write what we must write to the Attorney General for prosecution. But one thing is clear. We are less than 30 days from an election. John Dramani Mahama has launched what we call oral Operation Retrieve All Loot. Since all this advocacy seems not to be working and yielding results, I recommend to Ghanaians that on 7th December, if you want your 51 billion back to the state to be used for development, vote John Mahama. That for me is my recommendation. It's a shorter way of resolving this matter. So we can go into the books. If you continue to keep those who have supervised this loot at various levels, then you never get your money.
Yeah,
you will never get your money. If you want your money back, vote for a leader who will come and now go through the books. So much has gone wasted. And so much is still even being wasted in the name of attempting to buy votes.
Yeah,
well,
I agree.
So while at it, and this is an issue that because you continuously mention it, we're going to get into as well, just to ensure that there's some finality brought to it. And there was actually another statement, as I indicated, from one of our viewers to you. I got a letter within the week. It says, this is from Dr. Jones Mensah. Good morning, Alfred. I would want to find out from, it's quite a long one, you know, with a lot of congratulations and all of that for the program and so on. That's one, thank you. Yeah. But he says, essentially...
Now we are leaving the chats, they must listen and watch program.
Good. And he says, I want to find out from lawyer Martin Pebo what has become of the Cecilia Dapa case. Because beyond greeting all the people who have been talking about it every morning on your show, we need an update on the case as well, since he's a lawyer. But I've just got to put on record, he's not a lawyer on this matter. You know.
Yeah, so you know, but we've sued Attorney General over that interpretation. Said the Attorney General has used he and Yoko Mamiti Wado Dankwa, saying that they don't see this money laundering, blah blah blah. So we've sued them for the interpretation, because once her income doesn't support that, it's in the realm of money laundering. We sued in was it sometime in July? Well, the courts have just returned, so we'll be moving the court. Yeah. So Dr. Jones Mensah, right? What does he do? Where is he?
So he says this one is from Taiman.
Oh, okay. Taiman. Okay, Dr. Jones Mensah of Taiman. So we'll be giving an update. We'll push for the case to be heard. Oh, this matter, we are not leaving it. No. If we do that, we encourage politicians to loot this whole country, then it means that we are foolish. Because you try to do private sector a little in your corner, and then people go into government and loot everything. No, it's not going to happen. No.
The last time I checked, this case was called about 2 or 3 weeks ago at the High Court, where the High Court directed us, OSP, to provide the
criminal side,
investigation caution and the charge statement.
Yes, but let's explain this. Unfortunately, the High Court matter is a poor house girl. They are being prosecuted. Let's understand this. The case in the High Court is against Patience Botry.
Yes.
They are being prosecuted. Meanwhile, the one who brought the money, Sister Dapa and her husband, and who can't explain the source of the money, they have been let go. That's how come we have sued the Attorney General and Yoko to make sure that the interpretation they are giving to the law, saying that, oh, they need a predicate offense. It's a ruse. We've changed the law. You don't need a predicate offense. If you find too much money with somebody and the person can't explain the source of that income, then you are in the realm of money laundering. If it is government money, it's Yoko that deals with it. If it is private money, then it's the CID. That's the effect of the Supreme Court decision in ex parte Ibrahim.
I see. So the bottom line of this matter is that the money has been released.
Yes, unfortunately.
It's been returned to Cecilia Adapa.
Unfortunately.
She has the right to spend it.
That's why I said Yoko has to spend. She has no right. But because, you know, Yoko, Tiwadu Dankwa, Ekufuado's appointee, Ekufuado wrote Cecilia Adapa a love letter, my dear Cecilia, etc. So you can see there's collusion. So Tiwadu Dankwa allowed the money to go. Because remember, we were on this show when OSP gave notice that they were going to return the money to Cecilia Adapa. We kept saying that, hey, then Yoko should make sure that at the point of release, they will be there to take over. They never showed. And OSP did well, at least Kisi Ejabin did well by publicly telling us that at this juncture, he's going to release the money. And we sat right here and made noise that, hey, Tiwadu Dankwa, make sure your officers are there. So that as soon as the money is handed over to Cecilia Adapa, you also take it. But because they had already colluded between Godfrey Dami, who should have been out of office over this Jakwati, and this Tiwadu Dankwa, they didn't do it. They allowed the money to be given to Cecilia Adapa.
Was a collusion? I mean, there was some power play or theft amongst themselves as to who has to do what and so on, and whether there was an establishment of money laundering and other. You remember how things played out between those institutions?
It's a ruse.
That's if so. Why do you say there was collusion?
Oh, I see the collusion because, you see, that's what happened. Don't forget, as I said, Tiwadu Dankwa.
You said they hadn't established.
Tiwadu Dankwa is the same woman that when the paying money to see Ekufuado came up, Tiwadu Dankwa was recorded by A+, begging A+ that, hey, don't raise this matter. Otherwise, you make Ekufuado unpopular. That was the case against Samuel Abujinapo, Minister for Lands and Forestry, Asensu Buachi, Minister for the Public Works, the Works and Housing, right? And Tiwadu Dankwa,
the Minister for Roads now. He's been reshuffled.
Okay, Minister for Roads. You see, you're promoting people who should be near that office. Good. So this Tiwadu Dankwa, who was recorded begging, trying to clean up Ekufuado's mess. The same Tiwadu Dankwa who sat on the what's the lady? Sewa Bruni, Ekufuado's girlfriend's matter.
No.
Oh, she said it. Sewa Bruni is a citizen. She said she dated Ekufuado. Please, we can say it. Sewa Bruni is alive. Has Ekufuado sued Sewa Bruni for saying that she was dating Ekufuado? She said Ekufuado is her boyfriend. We can say it. Then they say Papa no. When people were in office, then they say. She said it.
She said it, but it's not an issue that.
When Ekufuado promised to sue Al Jazeera, the gold mafia, has he been able to sue Al Jazeera? Al Jazeera said he was involved in gold scam, etc. Has Ekufuado sued Al Jazeera over a year now? Sewa Bruni says she dated Ekufuado. Ekufuado is my boyfriend. You said she shouldn't say it.
Counsel.
Okay, so let's go on. So I've counted 2 cases. Then 3rd case against Mami Tiwadu Dankwa, the Takrady girls. Oh, Charlie, anytime I remember it, then my heart bleeds. You know, how can you deceive families like that? No, you know, the families were already down. Then Tiwadu Dankwa came that, oh, they had found the girls, they know where they are. You raise their hopes just to suit the political, establishment. Then it turned out that you couldn't produce the girls. So me, from Tiwadu Dankwa's track record, these 3 cases I've mentioned, which are publicly known, that's why she continued into this 4th case of allowing Cecilia Adapa to have the money.
If you say allowing, the matter was taken to court. The court ruled, is it not?
Look, the court said OSP couldn't listen. OSP actually withdrew. So it's not a substantive ruling. So OSP decided to withdraw because they didn't have any further evidence at the time. Don't forget, if they get evidence today, they can return. So they said they are withdrawing. So based upon withdrawing the charges, etc., then the court made the order, so the one you call ruling, except that I want us to remember so that people will not think, oh, they went into the case and Cecilia Adapa won. No, OSP withdrew. So the court ruled that...
Awaiting further evidence.
Excellent, thank you very much.
This case can be reopened
anytime.
When the further evidence is provided to the OSP.
So then the judge ruled that, okay, then in that case, return the money.
No. On the basis that they have seen more of a money laundering rather than what it was that they were thinking. So they found something. But just that they thought it's not within their purview.
Thank you.
So the understanding is that whilst the court was ruling for a return, the institution that has the capacity to deal with the money law will immediately kick in and pick. That was where the failure of the institutions of state.
Thank you. And we made the noise here that, hey, Mamiti Wadudankwa, make sure that at the point of release of the money, you are there to take it. This common sense. Come on. And they didn't. And you think, and then you look at the Attorney General's letter, then you see that there's collusion. My dear Cecilia, then to Attorney General, who is covering the president, doing Japati, suborning witness, coaching witnesses to go and lie to the court and still keeping his office. Collusion between them.
So you are in court on this, and you intend to go to court and on another aspect of this case as well. So we'll wait for it. And every time you say you go to court on one thing or the other, I put it on record because our viewers as well would be
so we have two cases now.
Accountability from you.
We have two cases now. That's a Cecilia Adapa matter, that the interpretation the Attorney General is putting on this money laundering is wrong, so that if we get the correct interpretation, that we don't need a predicate offense, so that the docket can be reopened and continued. Then number two, the SML deal. With pseudo Foriata, you should come and answer. Foriata and the rest. SML, that's the one they gave over 1 billion of our money. When is the case
supposed to be called?
We've sued them. They are supposed to respond. They haven't. So there are some steps we can take to move the case forward. We are on that.
Well, we've just got
actually some people too are yet to be served. There are many. So some of them are yet to be served. So when everybody's served, we're on legal vacation. I wasn't even here. You see, so as I wasn't here, there was slow progress. So now we are trying to tidy up that, and then we'll go forward.
Okay. So just gotten some notice. The Honorable Andy Apiakobi has a little challenge this morning, but we'll try to get through to him to join us through other means as well to be able to make his point and contribution to the conversation this morning. There's a little issue with him this morning, which I cannot put on air. But this week, the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Abansumana Kensford Bagwin, addressed the press on a number of issues, including the position that he takes, amongst others, that there is no constitutional crisis in this country, contrary to the position that the Chief Justice had taken. This is what the Speaker said this week. Take a look.
There is no constitutional crisis in this country. I repeat, there is no constitutional crisis in this country. The Parliament of Ghana is alive and working. Let nobody mislead, misinform, or disinform you and the country. The democratic system we adopted and enacted, as captured in the Constitution 1992 and fleshed out in various laws, processes, procedures, and practices, is what has been triggered, and it is working. Let us allow it to work. Democracy is about the rule of law. Let the law work. The democratic system we adopted and enacted recognizes that in the course of operationalizing the system, disagreements will occur and challenges and problems will arise. The system has put in place mechanisms.
Speaker there and explaining his position that there's really no constitutional crisis as we're faced with in this country. This is what the Chief Justice said almost 2 weeks ago. Take a look.
This is a constitutional crisis. We are living in a country where the parliament is not sitting. What is going on?
I'm not too sure that this suit is to enable parliament sit. It's to declare.
Very well. Yes, I take it. That's really in your
so if I would.
With the issues at play right now, whose report would you believe, or whose verdict would you align with? The state of affairs now. Is it a constitutional crisis as we find ourselves? The Speaker doesn't think this is where we are, based on what the Chief Justice has just espoused.
Oh, definitely, I'll go with the Chief Justice on this. Though, you know, in recent times, I've not been happy about how they've dealt with the matter. But when it comes to the case of whether there's a crisis or not, obviously there is one. How do we measure that?
There's a constitutional crisis?
Yes, there is. There is because currently, Parliament is not sitting. So since the 22nd of October, they've not, well, of course, they've sat twice. But when I say they've not sitting, I mean they are not conducting business. So they've sat twice, but not been able to conduct business. So anytime I say they are not sitting, please understand me in that context. So that's a crisis because we lost that week starting 22nd October. You know, they don't sit on Mondays. They sit starting Tuesday, right? So that week they lost it. Then we lost last week and then have lost this week. So 3 sitting weeks have been lost. So that's a crisis. Well, let's open, if we Google a dictionary, if we Google to find out what's the meaning of a crisis, it says intense and difficult period or situation, crisis. So if you use that, if your parliament hasn't sat in 3 weeks, will you say it's not a crisis? Crisis meaning, let me see. It says a time of intense difficulty or danger. The current economic crisis. You see already we are being buffeted by the cost of living crisis, and now we have a constitutional crisis. So crisis everywhere. One day, one crisis, or one district, one crisis, right? Okay, but let's continue. Sometimes it's good to have light moments. It helps the discussion. So obviously, there's a crisis. And the speaker saying there's none. I said earlier in the week in one of our interviews, it's like when the Chief Justice or the Supreme Court said this matter is a constitutional matter, it is not a political party matter. And then I told you that there were lay people in the court who started turning that, what's the Chief Justice saying? Meaning that they could see MPP versus NDC. Yet when the Chief Justice, that was on the matter of the recusal of Justice N.S. Gaiwu, when Thaddeus Sori said Gaiwu should be recused, or he should recuse himself because he was an MPP parliamentary candidate and he's an MPP member, blah, blah. When the Chief Justice came back, their response was that this is a constitutional matter and not a political party one. He said, no, that was just scratching the surface. So quite clearly, there is a crisis. But what do we do? Except that I think that the crisis is largely over. It's largely over based on what happened on that was Thursday, right? 7th November. Why I say so is that on the 7th of November, the reason there was really no sitting was because the MPP had no members. They didn't have enough members to be able to conduct business. And so they tried to avoid embarrassment. That's how come they didn't show up in the chambers. When you get Apia Kubi, put him on. I heard him, on another station, saying that he wasn't even aware that there was any caucus meeting. You see, when Apia Kubi went to Parliament on the 7th, he entered. Then he didn't find his people. Long story short,
he came straight from his constituency to Parliament.
Excellent. But he didn't. Okay.
And when he got in, his colleagues were not there.
Excellent. So he was later told that they said they were doing a caucus meeting. How can you have a caucus meeting and not inform some of your members? So that's just a ruse. So what actually happened was that because they didn't get enough members, it was clear to them that if they went into the chamber, thank God, Honorable Kofi Adams is here, he will tell you. It means that with the NDC having a greater majority, their business would have been defeated. So when you see that, hey, defeat is staring you in the face, what do? You withdraw. That was what happened. So for me, the crisis is largely over. It's largely over. The reason it appears to be continuing is that the MPP cannot marshal their members. There are deep cracks within their, what do you call it, their caucus. Because he can't, Afenyo can't marshal his people. He can't call them. Because a lot of them are in constituencies where they are about losing. In the December 7th election, you know that the wind of change is already blowing, right? So it's clear that a number of the MPs see defeat in their constituencies. So in this last minute period, they would want to be there to try to see what they can salvage. So Afenyo has not been able to give them better reasons why they should leave their constituencies and come. Because don't forget, if they protect these MPP MPs, if they succeed in winning their seats, at least they'll have bread and butter for the next 4 years. But if they abandon their constituencies and come to do the business in Parliament, that one is to further Akufo-Addo's family and friend business.
So are you saying that at the time on Thursday, the information you have is that the NPP MPs were not enough?
Absolutely.
All 137 of them were not there?
They didn't even get 100. 100 is even too much. Some radio stations said 31. So thank you, Honorable. Yeah, some radio stations said 31. I monitored because we have to come here. You have to make sure you follow different stations to see what happened. Even Kennedy Japan told them that, Master, what are you complaining about? Do you have the numbers? Kennedy Japan told them, do you have the numbers? He granted an interview. So I'm telling you that this crisis is over. The reason it appears to be lingering on is that Afenyo Markin cannot get his horses. He cannot get his charges to come to Parliament. And so the problem appears to continue because Speaker was there. And so, look, don't tell me about the NDC MPs going to sit on the majority side.
Why shouldn't I?
Good. If the MPP MPs came in, what is it about a seat? In law and in accounting, and I'm sure other professions, you hear substance over form. Substance over form. But so let me just land on the sentence. Yes, so let me land on it. So if your adversary comes to take your seat and you have the numbers to conduct the business, there's nothing wrong with sitting on the minority and then conducting the business, because bottom line, when it comes to voting, you have enough numbers, you win. So it's not the seat. So that seat thing is just a convenient reason for them. But we've seen through it. Honorable Kofi Adams is here. He was there. Please let the cameras play. You see they had no numbers. The MPP MPs didn't turn up in their numbers.
But if it was just about sitting anywhere, then there will be no reason to have labeling and also specific positions of MPs in Parliament. We know that those who sit at the right side of the Speaker are the majority. And from what you also know, on Thursday, the names of the majority or the names of these MPP MPs were labeled on the seats on the right side, correct?
Excellent. So same answer I'll give.
Why is that not an issue?
Same answer I'll give. They call it, or we call it, substance over form. If you have the numbers, remember they have a number of bills. You know, in all this over borrowing, they still want to borrow. One of the items is $250 million from AFDB. Even assuming the name of the lender is wrong.
It's an IDA loan. I think it's on the, for the Financial Stability Fund.
Very good. And other things. So what I'm saying is that there's a supposedly critical government business. So when you are faced with such a challenge and somebody is on your chair, that's not what you'll be thinking about. You even say, look, I don't want to sit. I want to stand. I want to stand. So they could have stood on the side of the majority, not sit. So as a form of protest, we will not sit down, but we'll just stand at this side. Mr. Speaker, let's go on. Pa, pa, pa. And then when it comes to the vote, they win. And then the business is carried on. So I'm telling you that the crisis is over. I see it as over. The reason it's lingering is that Afenyo Markin cannot marshal the MPP MPs to come into Parliament to conduct the business. Okay. And because they've anointed Honorable Kofi Adams and Co, they cannot rely on them, because a lot of the business, they would rely on NDC MPs to help them, right? Because they use consensus. But when now you've anointed them to such an extent, they are not coming to do any consensus. So that's where the problem is. It's within their camp, not the Speaker.
Let me put on a record that we'll get an NPP representation shortly on the program, and also get through to Andy Appiah could be in the bed. But Honorable Kofi Adams, this is the position of Martin Kpebu. That verdict of whether there's constitutional crisis or not, he says he aligns with the Chief Justice on this matter, to the extent that there hasn't been parliamentary sitting. There's what has been described as urgent government business pending, that is a semblance of crisis. And so the Speaker cannot run away from that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity and good morning to your viewers and my co-panelists. Clearly, there's no constitutional crisis.
Why?
At best, I can say there is a parliamentary crisis, but not a constitutional crisis. If there is ever anything closer to a crisis that will be linked to the Constitution, then it has become so as a result of the actions and inactions of the Supreme Court and being aided by the executive arm. And so if your analysis and understanding is based on lack of prosecution of government business, then it is the very government that is putting its business in jeopardy, and not Parliament, and not the majority NDC side or Mr. Speaker. But I dare say that we do not have a constitutional crisis. At best, I can say there is some kind of parliamentary
a parliamentary crisis, and not a constitutional
and not
crisis.
a constitutional crisis, because there's everything in there to deal with every matter. You talked about who sits where and what have you. You have two main documents to rely on, the Constitution and our standing orders. The next thing maybe you say, practice and convention. There is nothing in both the Constitution and the standing orders that says about who sits where. It's just by convention that has been developed that the majority sits to the right of Mr. Speaker and the minority sits to the left of Mr. Speaker.
A convention that has been adopted and respected over the period.
And I'm saying, and we, standing orders, we are the first standing order that was adopted when Parliament first met in 1993. New ones were developed in the year 2000. We have recently also developed a third one. We thought it wise not to put anything in all these standing orders that indicates as to who sits where. I am sure it's for a good reason. And what is happening today could possibly be basis to explain why in all these three standing orders that have been developed and adopted by our parliaments in the Fourth Republic, they thought it wise not to place it in the standing order as to the sitting arrangement. Yes, of course, name tags are placed on the sides based because each member must sit somewhere. There is leadership, there's some level of seniority, and then, of course, you have the back benches who maybe have just entered and therefore will sit from behind, and as they increase their term, you move forward. So I dare say that I don't see any constitutional crisis. You see, this whole issue boils down to the understanding that members of parliament from the MPP side, and MPP as a party and MPP as a government, the understanding they had of Article 97, 1G and H, and applied same in the year 2020. And in November, about 20th November thereabout, or is this 7th November, one of the dates I'm not so clear about, Mr. Speaker then ruled that a member of MPP,
this was 7th November
7th November 2020, a member of MPP who had filed to contest as independent has lost his membership of MPP. And by the understanding of MPP outside of Parliament, the understanding of MPP in government, and the understanding of MPP in Parliament and Mr. Speaker, that member has lost his right to continue to function in the chamber. and therefore his seat was declared vacant. That applied. Today, the same provision, the same ingredients are happening, and the same group of persons who proposed that and applied same are telling you that it should not be applied now and that what they are doing is futuristic. But the Constitution is very clear. If you allow me, you permit me, let me just, not sounding repetitive, just read the provision. Article 97(1). It says, a member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament. It says he shall vacate his seat in parliament. And they listed quite a number of them from A, B, upon dissolution of parliament, if he is elected as a speaker, if he is absent, like Speaker Doajahu, he was a member, he was elected as a member of parliament, then he became speaker, and so he had to resign, and by-election took place there. Blah, blah, blah. Then you get to, for example, H. If he was elected a member of parliament as independent candidate and joins a political party. So you have a member who was elected as an independent candidate and now has joined a political party. And people are saying that, wait, it's futuristic. So are we saying that the constitutional provision that says you vacate your seat, we must wait until the 9th Parliament when that independent member in the 8th Parliament gets elected as a member of a political party before he vacates his seat? Is that what we are trying to suggest? And so it is this abnormality that has created a kind of parliamentary crisis. And the fact that the Supreme Court that decided to depart significantly from many of the decided cases where they don't go into matters that whose jurisdiction has been so clearly provided for in the lower courts, and this very Supreme Court decided to constitute itself to go into a matter that has been clearly provided for under Article 99, that this must be determined at the High Court, and at best, if there are any issues of interpretation, that now be referred to them is what has resulted in all these situations.
That question has been answered now with what's happened in the Supreme Court.
And I'm saying that, well, that's why the Speaker is saying...
the question of jurisdiction, they have answered it.
That's why the Speaker is saying that if there is any crisis, if there is any constitutional, then it's not from Parliament. But it is a creation of what? The courts. Because look, let it be so clear to all of us that a person who alleges that an enactment or anything contained in or done under the authority of that or any other enactment or any act or omission of any person is inconsistent with or is in contravention of a provision of this Constitution may bring an action in the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect. When Honorable Afenyo Makin went to the Supreme Court, what action has been taken? Well, on the 14th of October, when he went to the Supreme Court, and on the 15th of October, when he sought to serve the Speaker and the rest, what action has been taken? No action has been taken. So people who are quoting the Constitutional Article 2 as their basis, no action has been taken for which you would go to the Supreme Court to even question. No action has been taken.
But he sought to have the Supreme Court set aside the Speaker's
and I'm saying that
ruling or
on the 14th, when he went, Parliament has not even reconvened. Parliament reconvened on the 15th, Tuesday. So Monday, when he went to the Supreme Court, no action has been taken by anybody. It was only a statement that has been made by Honorable Haruna Idrisu on a platform in Tamale. on a political platform in Tamale. Then you go to court, and when they ask them, he says, oh, he came under Article 2. What action has been taken? For which reason you were going to the Supreme Court? On the 14th, when you filed your case. So clearly, Speaker Bagben is right that he doesn't see any constitutional crisis. If there is anything, then it is a certain level of collusion between the judiciary, led by the Supreme Court, and the executive.
But you see,
to reduce the effect of another arm, which is Parliament.
The Speaker sent the application to the Supreme Court to, as it were, having his own stance on their directive to him, and in fact to Parliament, to stay the execution of his decision, as was so communicated, that these 4 seats declared vacant. The Supreme Court threw that application out. Then you went to Parliament on Thursday and still went to sit on the side of the majority.
Well,
why is that?
Well, clearly, as I have told you, I am not a party to any action before the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Parliament is not a party to any action at the Supreme Court. I have not been served any processes. I have not been served any orders from the Supreme Court. What I know as a member of Parliament is that on the 17th of October, Thursday, which we have decided as a decision day, the House took a decision that 4 members, 3 of them who I would describe as very good friends, close to me. Indeed, the second Deputy Speaker is one such person that I'm so close to. Kwachiaka sits directly behind me in the old chamber. So another person that I'm so close to. And we were all on the Public Accounts Committee. And by the nature of the Public Accounts Committee's work, we do sit outside a lot. And so we are that close. Then Suhum, as Kojo, we were together on the Defense and Interior Committee. Even when he was removed from that committee, he continued to be a friend to that committee and was very regular. So 3 of them, I'm so close to that. But that is what the provision says. On that day, a decision was taken. And that decision binds on the House. The only time that we will change it is the House itself going through its processes and procedure to change it.
So
and that was why, for example, on the 22nd of October, when we met, Mr. Speaker said, we have numbers to do business. And we had business before us on that day. That day we had business before us because there was an order paper. We had business before us. But the business we had before us were basically decision-taking business. And we did not have the numbers to take decision because the same Supreme Court have already ruled that Parliament, your decision-taking comes under Article 104, which says more than half of all your members. So we did not have that to be able to take a decision. And because one side decided to boycott, the House was adjourned sine die. On Thursday, 7th November, when we met again, the House did not have business. There was no business. And the standing orders are very clear as to what we do. And let me read Standing Order 216. It says, that's under Business Committee. The Business Committee comprises the leader of government business as chairperson. And let me let you know here that when we say leader of government business, it doesn't mean majority leader or minority leader.
Who is the leader of government business?
The government identifies and writes to Parliament that least government business is the person that is leader of government business.
So essentially it's Alexander Afenyo-Markin.
So Alexander Afenyo-Markin is the leader of government business, even if he's in the minority. Leader of government business as chairperson, the minority leader, the ranking member, the chief as ranking member, the chief whips, and not more than 11 other members. And listen to their functions. Subject to Order 67, the committee shall propose the business of each sitting and the order in which the business is taken, except that the House may determine which matters may properly be introduced in the House at any time. So it means when the business committee meet, I won't read the rest of the things. When they meet, they bring a draft business and the House now adopts it and it goes on to the order paper. For this very meeting, the business committee did not meet because the leader of government business, who is the chair, decided not to call that committee. And once they did not meet to bring business before the House, no other body can bring business before us because it is they who brings it, and then we can amend it and accept it in the order we want it and get it working.
I see. On that matter of why there was no business as captured in the order paper, Alexander Fenyomakin was asked that question. This was his explanation, and this is what he said he did in the respect of asking the clerk and then also explaining why the Business Committee of Parliament did not meet before Thursday. Let's take a look.
Speaker is setting the country on fire. Yes. Yesterday, we were disappointed with his non-reconciliatory posture during this press conference. Indeed, we, the majority caucus, call on Mr. Speaker one more time to demonstrate statesmanship. We want Mr. Speaker to know that although we were not happy on the day he was elected, some of our colleagues perhaps has seen something good in him. It wasn't the NDC that put him there for him to do the bidding of the NDC. Perhaps people felt that he could be someone who will bring all of us together. Yes. There are things that we cannot say into the camera. But Mr. Speaker is hurting democracy. Yes. What Mr. Speaker is doing is to rehearse what the NDC is likely to do should they lose power, to bring chaos, to cause confusion. How can Mr. Speaker say that he respects the Constitution, but he will not subject himself to the dictates of the judiciary? How can you say that the judiciary is in collusion, is colliding with the president, and you mention the president as a person, as an individual? How? What Mr. Speaker is doing is in bad faith. First of all, he subjected himself to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And after losing at the Supreme Court, he turns around to attack the Supreme Court. There are important things to do. We have the free SHS bill, which is before Parliament. Their main aim is to conspire with Mr. Speaker to prevent the free SHS bill from being passed. And in an unlikely situation where they see the light of day in the election, cancel it. That, oh, after all, there's no law backing it. They are
So I'm coming. So he essentially, and he makes the point towards the end that to the extent that that memo that was sent to the Speaker recalling the House specified a number of items classified as urgent business, that was going to be the basis for your sitting. In fact, that was going to be captured as the business for the day. So there was really no need to have the business committee meet again. That was the explanation that he gave. You see, is that consistent with practice?
You see, Fenyomakin is my very good friend, but he's been a very bad leader in recent.
Why do you say that?
You see, our standing orders are very, very clear. And let me read Standing Order 215 also for you, before even I move further to explain these things that he's talking about. Standing Order 215 talks about report of committees, and this includes the business committee. It says the deliberations and recommendations of a committee shall be presented to the House in the form of a report. 2, the committee shall consider and adopt the report prior to the presentation of the report to the House, and the report shall be signed by the chairperson and the clerk to the committee. That is why the business committee report, those times when we are sitting normally every Friday, is signed by the chair and the clerk. Then they bring the report. The chair reads it, then the House now adopts it. 3, a motion shall be moved by the chairperson or any other member of the committee upon presentation of the report to the House for consideration and adoption or otherwise of the report. That recall petition, 1, was not signed by the chairperson of the business committee. It was signed by the deputy, second deputy whip of the MPP group to the speaker. And so that cannot be considered as a report of the business committee. At best, those persons who sponsored the recall would appear before the business committee and push their issues to the business committee for business committee to adopt, vote on, and prepare a report that will come under the signature of what? The leader of government business who chairs that committee, and that is what will be presented to the House. No, and you, the chairman alone, don't have the power, don't have the authority to just suggest that because there was a recall petition, that should become the report of the business committee. That discussion and deliberation must happen at the business committee meeting. If the business committee decides that we are adopting the petition that was presented by the 15% as our business, that is their decision. Then it will now come under the signature of the chairman of the business committee, who is the leader of government business. Afenyomakin failed in doing this. 2, so let me just finish this point. 2, this is not the first time we've had a recall, even for this year. This is about the 3rd recall we have had this year. Correct. And in all the other recalls, the business committee has met and presented the report, which was used in preparing the order paper for that day. So why is he now telling us something new? Lawyer Martin Pebu is correct. What happened was that they could not marshal their numbers.
You know that?
I know this for a fact.
You know it for a fact?
I know it for a fact.
That they couldn't marshal their numbers.
Look, when we have caucus meetings, planned caucus meetings, it is placed on our what? Platforms. They have their WhatsApp platform as their group. We have ours. So, and SMS is further even sent.
I see.
How did it happen that a very regular and MP who is so careful about the way he does his things, like Atachia, will move to the chamber and only get out because he did not see his colleagues there? How will Andy, as for Andy, I saw him because of where I was sitting. He was in some light blue kaftan. So as he was walking even out, I tried to call him that he should come back and come and take his seat, but he didn't hear me and he went out. So he is right when he said he went to the chamber, and when he realized that his colleagues were not there, that was when he walked out. And 3-4 reasons have been advanced by the MPP side. One says they were having caucus meeting, that was why they were late. Another one says that they were waiting for Mr. Speaker to rule and say, give direction for the NDC side to move from where they were to the other side before they will come in, and that they didn't want confrontation. Yet another says Speaker is in contempt of court. And so who is telling you the truth? One incident, 3 different reasons being advanced. One says they were waiting for Mr. Speaker to ask the NDC side to move to the left before they will come. Another one says, oh no, we were in the caucus meeting. The caucus meeting took so long, and we didn't know, and we didn't know about it. We didn't know about it. Yet another says that they will take the Speaker on for not ordering. The Speaker doesn't order where we sit. It is not the business of Mr. Speaker. If you look at the functions of Mr. Speaker, it's not the business of Mr. Speaker to determine where members sit. We sit according to our numbers and per the 17th October decision of the House, we have become majority, and by convention, we sat where the majority is supposed to.
A decision that the Supreme Court has also continuously stayed its position that its application be stayed.
You see,
but you still want to go by it.
The Supreme Court spoke on the 18th. Parliament had already decided on the 17th. Parliament is an arm of government that has procedure and processes that is also coming from the Constitution. The standing orders takes its strength from the Constitution.
But it was the same argument that the Speaker went to the Supreme Court with, and that was thrown out.
The fact that the Supreme Court have said something doesn't mean that Parliament has been communicated to appropriately and Parliament has taken steps to deal with that so-called communication. I would rather urge the Supreme Court to go faster and determine the constitutionality or otherwise what Article 97, 1G and H really means.
That's 11 November.
Once they do that, then they can now make declarations and give appropriate orders. But for me, these interim orders to an arm of government, Parliament, that stop your processes, don't do anything because we are considering something. It doesn't wash with my understanding of the Constitution. It doesn't wash. Look, Parliament is the only place where politics is really allowed. If you take the executive, when you get elected by 50% plus one, you are supposed to encompass every other person. You go to Judiciary, they are not even supposed to have been partisan at all. But when you come to Parliament, that is where you have all shades of opinion, and that is why the Constitution is so clear in trying to protect that right. If you look at Article 2, look, it says that Parliament cannot even legislate to have a one-party state. And it is to protect that provision in the Constitution that, for me, I think that Article 97, 1G and H was also added, so that you don't have a situation where a particular party wins and is in the executive, then he used all kinds of opportunity to lure others to leave their parties completely and turning, but in terms of function, turning Parliament into just a one-party state. To avoid that, that is why that provision is there. It is not for any futuristic thing. It is to protect the Article 2 provision where it's, or is it 3? I think 3, Article 3. I think it's Article 3. Parliament shall have no power to enact a law establishing a one-party state. Article 3. So it is to protect this, that for me, 97 is so clear. And the NPP's own constitution. Look, if you go to 55.7, the last point that I make, and I know that you are dying, 55.7. Before you register a political party with the Electoral Commission, the first item that is demanded of you, if you look at the Constitution, Article 55.7, it says, for purposes of registering a prospective political party shall furnish the Electoral Commission with a copy of its constitution. If you take the MPP constitution that it furnished the Electoral Commission to register as New Patriotic Party, it's in the forfeiture of membership that when you endorse another candidate, you endorse another party, or you decide to contest against the official candidate of the party, you automatic forfeiture of membership. So your constitution is recognized by the national constitution, because before you register as a political party, you must submit that to the Electoral Commission. It is because we want to be sure that everything in there is in consonance with what? The national constitution. And that has been accepted. So why now come to tell us that, oh, that is your constitution, it's not national constitution? Article 55.7 takes care of that.
Well, let's hear from Kenny Japong at that press conference on Thursday after Alexander Fenemakin spoke. He also had a few words to share. Let's listen.
To get understanding from the speaker. So we were at the caucus meeting, and maybe I will admit that it took so long.
But that is even allowed in parliamentary culture.
I engaged Honorable Agboja and told the minister, oh, then you made a mistake. You should have informed the speaker that you were at the caucus meeting. The speaker didn't know, which I cannot defend because I'm not part of the leadership. And I'm sure he's right. I'm sure if my leaders have informed the speaker that we're holding a meeting and we'll be back, definitely he would have waited. So,
you know, Ken, it was the onus also on the so-called majority group leaders to inform the speaker, where are your colleagues? And he will tell them they are in caucus. They want to tell us that nobody knew that we're having a caucus meeting.
Well, he can be Epimenides and sit on the fence, because even if he knows, and once there's no official communication, I can pretend I didn't know. That one day, I can pretend that I didn't know. Yeah, that's the problem. I've posed that question because I entered the chamber and I saw NDC occupying MPP seats. So I just had to leave. I told the leader and the leadership, the two whips and deputy majority leader, that we should go back. It's in the interest of our country, Ghana. I believe in Ghana. With what is going on in Parliament, it's not good for the country. I have advised my colleagues from the other side that, look, assuming you win the incoming election, would you get 2/3 of Parliament to take decisions? And they all said no. So I said, well, if you are saying that Professor Michael Quinn set a precedence and you are using that to take a position as you have done, then what happens if you win election and you don't get 2/3? Do you expect MPP also to help for us to rule this country? That is my fear for Ghana. Whatever is going on, if we don't put an end to it and we politicize issues, Ghana, I'm telling you, in 2025, you will see worse things in Parliament. Because whoever wins and whoever loses will not cooperate. Then what will be the fate of our country?
It is the solution to this matter that is the burden of Austin Game. And in fact, this is the reason why he's here this morning. So Game, I'm going to bring you in here at this point in a bit, but let me also welcome lawyer Amoakwa. He is a member of the NPP Legal Directorate, lawyer Kingsley Amoakwa Bedu, and then also a lecturer, a law lecturer, joining us on the phone. As I indicated earlier, Andy Apiakobi has a little issue to deal with. And so he was scheduled to be here. But this morning, in fact, we've just gotten notice just about an hour ago about the situation that he's had to deal with. So lawyer Kingsley Amoakwa Bedu is joining us on the telephone. Lawyer Kingsley Amoakwa Bedu, good morning.
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Key Point. Now, Mr. Game, with what is at play now, it's quite clear there are entrenched positions at play, and there is really no end in sight as far as the politics of the situation is concerned. Does the solution to this matter lie in the courts, or, as the Speaker said, Parliament has the capacity and the capability to be able to solve this problem?
Thank you, Alfred, and good morning to everybody listening to us and my dear friends and Mr. Amoakwa also online. Indeed, to be very honest with all of us, this is a very burdensome matter that we need to take seriously. I say so because we have a strangulated economy on our hands already, and going into an election without knowing the direction we want to take. And so coming to add this problem to it is quite, it should be of concern to everybody. Now, Parliament certainly is not and should never be seen as an extension of an executive governance or judiciary. Parliament must remain independent, and members so elected should see themselves, though they came on the vehicle of political parties, oftentimes they will have to represent the interests of the state. And that is very, very instructive and should be taken seriously on board. And that is the reason why any form of decision by the judiciary will have to be completely in consonance and in sync with the Constitution of Ghana and not placing anybody. And I think they've, let me assume positively that that is what they've been doing all this while and should continue to do, because some aspects of the Constitution are to be applied and not to be interpreted per se, unless it becomes really, really very critical. Otherwise, just like the laws, they are expected to be applied.
Right.
You know, otherwise the Supreme Court will be inundated and they can never do any other work.
Okay.
And so it's very important as a foundation for this conversation. Now, the problem, let me call it problem for now, that is visited on Parliament now, is the reason why I wrote personally, and for the information of the public, I wrote to the Speaker and copied the same letter to the two leaders, for me not to become part of the controversy, to the two leaders.
You wrote to them?
Yes. I delivered the letter myself, and when in doubt with one of them, he asked me to forward it back to him. I did same. We spoke on the phone, exchanged a lot of pleasantries, and so is that I have taken notice that Parliament is being gradually pushed to become like an extension of the judiciary, so that every little thing, the judiciary will become part and parcel of, the House. And it's so dangerous for the nation that we should allow such a thing to happen. And that is the reason why I wrote to them and told them that, look, what you are doing to yourselves, if you don't find ways and means of resolving this matter that can be resolved, you will gradually now allow yourselves to be controlled by other arms of government, and you will live to regret it. So I know at least some of them have reached out to me, and I'm a mediator. I'm not talking about it for talking's sake. Both within Ghana and outside Ghana, I'm invited to do, and I do. And so therefore, because mediators have a habit of not talking in public about matters they have been able to resolve and those they are dealing with, so I am unable to say so that much. And I will not say it for the sake of my clients whom I have assisted in any way possible. But this is, to me, and let me say it with clarity, that this to me is a small matter.
It's a small matter?
It's a small matter.
This issue?
Yes. It can be resolved even by the people themselves that are embroiled in this matter. They can resolve it themselves if they were minded to resolve it.
I see.
Now, knowing that they appear not to have the interest in going into it to resolve it themselves, that's why I made the offer. And some of them are beginning to pick it up. And it's a very, let me repeat again, it's a very simple matter. I've heard many people contributed already on radio and television. Some even took steps to go and visit the speaker, like the apex body that advises the president, Council of State. I understood they visited the speaker. But I know as a mediator, to be very honest with you, it's not everybody who can help resolve matters of this nature. You know, it's not everybody, especially those who have deep-seated partisan political interests.
So you will not recommend the president?
Of course, the president cannot and may not. That's why he's not even taking any step to do it. Well, you know, even the Council of State, it means they must make very careful choice or choices of people who will go there, who will be completely impartial people, because impartiality is very critical in this matter. I am, by God's grace, I have been on the ticket of NDC before, and I empathize with them. But when it comes to mediation, the mediator is not the one to resolve the matter. The mediator will only facilitate the process and get the parties to resolve the matter themselves. And therefore, that is what I will represent. And I can tell you on authority, by what I know and what I have been doing, that if I have a pre-meeting with the MPP side, I have a pre-meeting with the NDC side, I have a pre-meeting with the Speaker of Parliament, and brought the three parties together, within some hours, we should be able to resolve this matter. Because already they are supposed to be they are all gentlemen, you know, and therefore they know what is right and what is wrong. We'll be only guiding them to have a conversation. Because if you go debating, you will have a loser, you will have a winner. You have argument, you have a winner, you have a loser. I know as a mediator how to lead them through the conversation to resolve the matter without burdening anybody and without anybody feeling guilty. Now, Supreme Court will give a definitive kind of ruling. And when they give a ruling, it becomes a precedent, is imposed on you, you are to go and comply. But you know the outcome? When Supreme Court even says that the MPP side has won and this side has lost, that is when you will have a problem. That is when the crisis will begin. Because NDC will have to comply, Speaker will have to comply, because that is the ruling of the court. But they will not collaborate. They will not cooperate, because we have a hung parliament, as we all know. They don't have the numbers, especially now that we are in the midst of election and everybody is hanging around his constituency. You will not always have the numbers in parliament. And NDC people, if they marshal their numbers, even 100, and they are available in parliament, they will always throw out whatever is brought by the executive. And is that what we want as a nation? Certainly not. And therefore, we need everybody to collaborate. And so I think that the way forward is clear. If they want a resolution of the matter, the burden is on the two sides, that they are willing to have this matter resolved. We would facilitate the process of how, it's just a simple 5-stage process. We'll prepare them through the pre-meeting. We'll let them uncover what they really want to resolve. They will learn about the importance of the matter that is before them, and they will search for a solution that will guide them to have. And by the time you realize, they will explain themselves into writing how they want it resolved.
I see. So for you, arbitration will produce a winner and a loser. Supreme Court ruling may produce a winner and a loser. So in this case, it's a mediation approach that will produce the best solution to this.
In fact, the most civilized way of resolving matters is to negotiate or resolve it through mediation. Supreme Court is essentially an arbitrative body, because their ruling is binding on everybody. Arbitration ruling is binding on everybody. Essentially, that is what it is. In fact, the court is an extension of ADR, if people don't know. Because at the end of the day, everything must have an end. every litigation must have an end. Right. And so if there is a matter that is of concern to people and they can't resolve it through negotiation or mediation, they either have to go to arbitration, especially if it's a criminal matter. If you go to the US today, almost 60 to 80% of all their civil cases go through mediation.
Let me do this quickly. And so essentially, the solution to this matter on the verdict of Mr. Game lies outside of the court, really. So whatever the Supreme Court would say, it will still be incumbent on the parties in this particular situation committing to wanting to solve this problem. What's your take on this?
Well, thank you very much. And Mr. Game has touched on a lot of the things I wanted to touch on. It being that Parliament, the second arm of government, is a representative of the whole of Ghana. And the situation being played out here, there is a politics of it, then there's a constitutional aspect of it, which the proper jurisdiction of the court has been invoked. And that is the court cannot just come into issues unless their jurisdiction has been invoked. And their jurisdiction has been invoked, and so they need to be seen to be doing their work, and that is what they are doing. Now, the politics of it is making people make comments on who is more powerful and who is not. I think we've gone beyond that. And as Mr. Game said, when the Supreme Court gives a decision, it must be complied with. Now, it looks like the posture of the parties, and unfortunately, the press conference of the Speaker is also one of it. It looks like the posture of the parties is so intransigent because of the political nature of it. But before the politics of it, we need to look at the national interest. What is the national interest? We have nurses, we have public servants who need to be paid in the first quarter of next year. We have a president who has to come and give his final State of the Nation address before he hands over. We have several things that must happen. And so Parliament must be working before they break up to go and do their campaign, which they are still doing, which they are doing now. And so when we take for the optics of it and for the narrative that can be generated out of it, when we take an intransigent position, it doesn't help at all. And so together with our father, the Speaker of Ghana, and the Speaker of Parliament, and all the parties, let us, for the sake of the national interest, remove particular political angles to this. Because at the end of the day, it looks like, and how the narrative was going until Mr. Game spoke, it looks like, even the powerful people will not even obey the Supreme Court's order. That will not work well for those who are watching. For the in quotes, the mob rowers and the non-entities in quotes. If this person can do it, then I can also do it. But that's not what we want to achieve. We want to achieve, this is the only parliament which I foresee, which is going to be so easily distributed. We want to show that even in situations like that, we were able to make progress. And so I'm intentionally not speaking as a politician, but speaking as a citizen of Ghana, and trying to even speak as if I'm a statesman, which I'm not there yet, to say that let everyone lay down their intransigent positions so that we can bring clarity to this. What is it? Someone wants to be a majority, someone wants to be a minority. The father, even in the thick of this, a bill has to have been tabled for the abolition of the e-levy. I think it doesn't augur well. Let us resolve what needs to be resolved first. We go back to Parliament. Things are as they were. We progress. You see, the fact is that the Supreme Court may come and even give a ruling that will favor NDC. All right? It may give a ruling that favor, because you see, the position of the Deputy Speaker is different from those who are not, who are just trying to be independent. So you see, the legalities of it is also not straight-jacketed. But for now, so that Parliament can work, let the status quo ante remain. Let people who can speak to both parties speak behind the scenes not on platforms like this, not on other public platforms that only infuriate or enforce intransigent positions. We have to really bring everything down so that at the end of the day, the Supreme Court sacrosanct and its power is maintained. That of and the respect that at least according to it is maintained. Then that of Parliament is also maintained. It shouldn't be that what happened on the 6th of January 2021 that went into the dawn of 7 is repeated. It should never ever happen again. So then they also have their image, their socracy, their respect also to be protected. All right. So that of the executive, and it's good that the president hasn't come in, as Mr. Game said, because clearly that will create another issue as if he's trying to influence matters. So we should stand and look for now and wait. The bottom line, like we all agreed, is that Parliament itself has a means of resolving this matter. It is not in the open. So if we see a member of the Council of State trying to attempt, Mr. Game trying to attempt, let us allow the process to go. Any commentary that we will make one party president and this is that and therefore we do this, does not augur well at all. So that we are able to achieve this. Parliament will stay in its respect to be intact. Judiciary, its respect will be intact. The executive will be able to do their work. Then the Parliament will come to an end, and then we'll go on. The next time, if you vote, we are not anticipating that this kind of equal numbers will be what will happen in Parliament. If it happens that in the future we get that, Supreme Court has given an interpretation. If it happens that indeed a president comes who Parliament is rather, the majority is rather on the other side, we will know how to do business. But even if it's a par and we're having these difficulties, then we will have problems. And so today, as I said, I'm not speaking as a politician, I'm speaking as a Ghanaian who wants the better of Ghana, who's speaking at Ghana. Let us allow processes that will make Parliament function again.
Okay.
Let us not take intransigent positions. Let us not make any commentary that brings someone, I am more powerful of this, and powerful than this, and when I started this was this. And no. Let's not do it. It doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't help anything. The position of the judiciary is sacrosanct, is powerful. They have their jurisdiction. They cannot exceed that. That of Parliament, all of us voted for them. They should go and do what we sent them there to do. Okay. Anything that will make them feel too powerful more than that, it is not encouraged now. Okay. Then the likes of Mr. Game and the members of the Council, any other person who can speak, so anyone who's speaking should be seen to be pouring water on this seeming fire. Anything that someone said must be dousing this, so that we have our Parliament working and we have our respect.
Lawyer Kingsley
That's what I would say.
Right. Lawyer Kingsley Amakwa, thank you for that input and also coming through on this. He's a member of the NPP Legal Directorate. He's a private legal practitioner as well as he's a lawyer. And Mr. Game, and I'll come to you, Mr. Adams, but Mr. Game, what would constitute a win-win situation in this matter? And before you answer that, let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Samuel Atachia, who is the Member of Parliament for the Buako South constituency on the ticket of the MPP, also a private legal practitioner as well. And Samuel Atachia, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on Key Point.
Good morning.
Great. Now, Mr. Game, what will constitute this win-win situation?
The Honorable Atachia is a good friend and has been my lawyer before in a case. So I appreciate you so much.
Right.
Now, let me say this. You see, everything must have an end somewhere along the line. And like I said, I and my organization will be available, and I assure you that we have the capacity, and I've offered in my letter that our office premises will be available. We are not even going to use Parliament. We are not going to charge them even one farthing. We would make available our canteen will make available everything that they will have to eat. Those who will be authorized with decision-making powers to be present at this mediation meeting. And I guarantee you, when I finish with the MPP side in a pre-meeting, and I finish on the NDC side at a pre-meeting, and my engagement with the Speaker, the two sides coming together, maximum 3 hours, this matter is over.
I see. Ms. Adams, so what is with this position that has been espoused by Kinsa Marco Abuedo that is a point of departure from the position that the NDC takes on this matter, and how this can be resolved, really, for the greater good?
Clearly, you can see the NDC have, for the life of this 8th Parliament, has always been available to transact business for and on behalf of the state. We have disagreed in times where we'll have to disagree on a position based on what we think will impact negatively on the people we serve. That is why, despite we challenging the outcome of the presidential elections, we approved ministers and even suffered some consequences from the base. Despite challenging the outcome of the elections, the budget for 2021 was presented by not the Minister for Finance. We took it through and approved it. The only time we rejected the budget was when they introduced draconian tax policies like e-levy that we knew was going to even be more damaging than the benefits they sought to get from it. Today, Bank of Ghana is reporting spending more money printing new notes because people have now left the cashless society to now dealing with cash. So your notes get destroyed quickly and they have to be what? Replaced. And you spend money to print money. Money you are spending to print money is now more than what e-levy is bringing to you. So the NDC side have always been ready to do business. Why do you think that we'll always have more numbers than the MPP side, even on the 7th? But clearly, their leader chose on every occasion to rather blackmail and do bad politics, to deceive the people. How on earth can the leader of the MPP minority group suggest that we are doing what we are doing because, one, we don't want free SHS bill? Who says, considering the processes a bill goes through, the first reading has not even been done of the bill? When the first reading is done, it will now be referred to the committee. The committee will now go and look at it. They will now come out with a report. We will now debate the principles behind it, look at it, then it goes through the second consideration and the third and all that. Do you think that you have time to be able to deal with free SHS bill in these last few days that we are left with? It's just not possible. Government, you see, because the NDC put out there that we are coming to make free SHS better, and we will make a law to back it and give it permanent funding as we did for National Youth Employment Program. You remember that was just a program, a policy that was out there without legal backing. It was the NDC that came and developed the law to back it and now turn it to Youth Employment Authority with proper funding. It's the same way we are going to do with free SHS. Give it the legal backing, give it appropriate funding.
But
so
it's the legal backing that they're
and I'm saying that
to have this bill.
You don't bring a bill now when you know that it cannot be passed.
How do you say it cannot be passed?
Looking at the time we are left with just some actually bet for all these situations which have even been on recess for the elections and only come back after elections. And there's no way we will be able to deal with this and complete it, to take it through all the stages. Two, he talks about tax exemptions and that when we do tax exemption, it will generate employment, and because we don't want employment. Chief, so for 8 years, you have not created the employment. You are waiting for these 29 days to an elections for tax exemption before you go and create the employment. That will show that you have done well. So clearly, they should talk to their leader to behave himself and stop speaking the way he's speaking and condescending to his colleagues. That is not the way to do. That's not the way to lead a group. He is not leading right, and he's my very good friend, but I'm happy with the words that he used on his colleagues. It's inappropriate. So what Dr. Game is saying, what lawyer Amwakwa Wedu is talking about, how can it work when you have a leader behaving the way he is behaving? When you fail to preside over a committee, to present business for the House, leading to Mr. Speaker not having any business and therefore have to adjourn. Then now you say that, oh, the petition is business enough. Is that how we do? How can petition now become business so recognized for the House? That petition was only requesting Mr. Speaker to recall, and it ends there. Whatever was the basis for request for the recall, once Mr. Speaker has done it, that must translate into a business that will be presented to the House for the House to transact. You failed to perform that duty. You failed. And so clearly, they should be talking to their person. They should be talking to their leader if they truly want us to deal with all these situations. But I can tell you that most of the things that they are talking about, for free SHS thing that he's doing, it will not wash. Ghanaians know that they have messed it up. And advertising that save free SHS, vote Bawumia. In this state, we, like I've given you example, President Kufuor introduced National Youth Employment Program. No legal backing, nothing. They were just picking here and picking there, and at the time we came, payment even was a problem. We in NDC gave it the legal backing and created permanent sources of funding that today we have Youth Employment Authority that has funding that they pay people who are employed in that sector. That is what we will do for the free SHS. And further enhance it to the tertiary level that we say that we've seen a barrier where after the free SHS, entry to tertiary becomes a challenge because of the fee that is demanded of you in your first year. We say there will be no such stress again. You enter that also smoothly. And once you are in there, the loan plus system will take care of other things from your second year. And when you leave university also, because of 24-hour economy, the policy of what? 133, you will also get job to do. And once you get the job, you will be paying for the loan that is given you. So we have a clear policy guideline to deal with unemployment, educational challenges from secondary through tertiary. That is the NDC for you. And they should stop these politics that they are doing.
is saying that it's going to, in fact, their next move is to cite the Speaker for contempt. He said this to journalists. Hold on a bit. I want us to hear from Ketiamon on that particular issue of the next step that the NPP will take to cite the Speaker for contempt because of what happened on Thursday. Take a look.
The Parliament is a master of its own regulations and its own. It's nonsense. That's not the case. The Supreme Court is spoken. The Speaker is supposed to get the House in order to let us do what we are supposed to be doing. Why we are here? Why does he consistently keep like based on the Constitution, but what does he? You see, listen. Be careful. Listen to what you are saying. If I don't expect the Speaker to be saying things like that. He's a seasoned lawyer. He can't be saying that. He doesn't act on the basis of the Constitution, but on the basis of the standing orders. What are the standing orders? The master of the. But that's an entirely different matter. What's an entirely different matter? Supreme Court is simply asked that he should give an order to restore what the situation was. You are not listening. We recall Parliament. The Speaker, when he sat, was supposed to do a first thing, and the first thing was supposed to be this: the decision, the ruling that I made on the particular day has been overset, has been stayed by the Supreme Court, which interprets the Constitution, interprets what we do over here. Accordingly, the status quo ante should be reverted to. So
have a convention. We have a convention. It's not argument, nonsense. You guys are not listening. Supreme Court is speaking. It is all for us members of Parliament on the majority side to be arguing at any point. This is a matter. This is foreclosed. It is completely foreclosed. Supreme Court is speaking. That is the end of the matter.
Why were you not? Why were you not at the business?
Because again, if he said that, listen. The orders of the Supreme Court were directed specifically to the Speaker. It was the Speaker. It wasn't the leadership. It wasn't the clerk. It wasn't the leadership which made that ruling, that decision. It was the Speaker of Parliament who unconstitutionally made a proclamation, whatever it is that he said the last time. The Supreme Court has told him that he was wrong. Restore matters to what they were before you did that.
Line of action for the MPP.
Well, we will cite him for contempt. We will cite the Speaker for contempt. Watch the space.
But
that's the Dansia Sokwa Member of Parliament. This is the Minister for Trade and Industry, Kwabena Hammond. There. He's also a lawyer. Samuel Atachia is joining us back on Zoom. I lost him briefly. Can you hear me, Atachia?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Great. I'm just hearing your colleague, Honorable K.T. Hammond, saying that your next step as a caucus is to cite the Speaker for contempt. Is it one that all of you are aligned with, that you're going to do?
Yes.
And on what basis? What exactly has the Speaker done that you are citing him for contempt? I'm sorry.
Then I suspect the yes wasn't the contempt. No, he wasn't.
Yes to something. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that.
Well, you see, without any education in law, is that a problem?
No, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
So we lost him at the beginning.
You can hear.
I can hear you. So I asked the question. Whether the decision to cite the Speaker for contempt is one that all of you are aligned with.
Yes. I don't know about what is going on because I'm traveling. Yeah. Okay.
So I apologize for this, and there's a not too clear connection to him. As he indicated, he is actually on the move, and he is traveling. We'll connect with him through other means and see if we get established and more stable connection to Samuel Atachia. So we're working on that. We'll try to get him on the telephone. He's joining us on Zoom, but there's a little connection issue, so we'll get him on the telephone. I just wanted to quickly get on that basis of contempt that K.T. Hammond said. It's going to be the next step of the majority. That's the NPP caucus in this parliament.
Alfred, but the question is, what has Mr. Speaker done for which anyone would want to cite?
That's why I asked the question. Contempt. I think it will be for the NPP to ask.
On the 22nd of October, the House met. The only reason the House was adjourned sine die was that we did not have numbers to take decision, and one side was not in the chamber. So if you are not in the chamber, how do you expect, Mr. Speaker, to effect the orders if you so claim? On the 7th, again, you had no business before him, because it is the business that will give the order of things. It is the business that the business committee brings that will say that, oh, maybe roll call, national pledge, message from the president, then formal communication by the speaker. Then we go to correction of votes. We did not have this business before the House. So the speaker only did one thing. The prayer was said, and then based on what was before, because there was no business, he had to adjourn the House sine die indefinitely. So how then do you cite the speaker for?
Well, relax. I told you that it's a ruse. You see, now you see they are making you spend all your time answering that question so that you forget that they don't have numbers.
So you hear K.T. Hammond say that the effect of the Supreme Court's decision on the Speaker's application was that the status ante should be reverted to, as in they now becoming majority.
Yes.
In his position, that was not done or adhered to. So to that extent, they're going to cite the Speaker for contempt.
You see, I'm laughing. That's why they say it's a democracy, right? So there is freedom of what? Opinions. So everybody can say what they like, all right? So that's the way I understand it. So to that extent, I don't want to say anything negative about what he said. But obviously, it's a joke. I mean, that's not serious. You heard what Honorable Kofi Adam said. Me, when I heard it, I told you that, look, let's stay focused. If not, all these red herrings will be thrown in to divert attention. The problem at hand right now is that they cannot marshal enough MPP members into Parliament to conduct business. That is the problem. And that is it. So any other thing they say is just a way of diverting attention. That's it. Okay. That's just it. So, Mr. Okansi, remember I made a point earlier. You think if they had enough numbers, they would not have come in? They would have, and they could have stood and conducted the business.
Well, at least one of the MPs who came in is Samuel Atachia. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, sir.
Well, even though your colleagues were not in the House on Thursday, you were seen in the chamber, interacted with the NDC MPs, and then you left. This is that you didn't get the information about the caucus meeting earlier?
I didn't get it earlier, and I also thought that probably I'll be late. So I rushed in there, and it's not started. And I saw the NDC members of Parliament defying the Supreme Court order, and they were firmly seated where the majority is supposed to sit. But, we have the commandery, so we just enjoyed each other's company, and I left.
So if you say that they defied the Supreme Court order and were sitting where you were supposed to sit, what was the what was the effect of the Supreme Court's decision on the Speaker's application? Was it that the NDC will become minority and you become majority?
That is so.
Why
it's so
that?
Clear that it beats my imagination that anybody is pretending not to understand what the Supreme Court handed down. The Supreme Court said, let's go back to the status quo ante. What was the status quo ante? We are the majority and they are the minority. And let the case be determined. When the case is determined, we know the final decision of the Supreme Court. So it beats my imagination why anybody is trying to pretend that you can go and sit where the majority is sitting and I will say that I believe in the rule of law. That is utter lawlessness. You see, somebody is talking about the fact that it's a joke that they might want to cite anybody for contempt. Why should we go to that length? It's a pathetic juvenile power play.
But
that the highest...
What's the basis for the contempt application or contempt consideration that you want to now go on as the MPP caucus?
I am not aware of the decision of the MPP to go for contempt and cite the Speaker for contempt. I'm not aware.
Well,
somebody say fine.
I see.
But there is a basis. There is a basis. Everybody who understands what the law is will know. When you defy the orders of a court of competent jurisdiction, that defiance constitutes a contumacious behavior, which is punishable. What is even worse, if you pay regard to the very Constitution which gave the Speaker his space to sit where he's seated, this is one of the high crimes, that an order of the Supreme Court giving directions to matters are defied. That is more than even contempt. They call it high crime. So people should not sit in your studio
Hello, Mr. Chacha. We would reconnect, and the question now still remains as to how Parliament was supposed to. Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, I lost you briefly, but I can hear you now. But if you say that Parliament defied, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I lost some more touch in a bit, but well, he says there's a basis for the contempt to the extent that the Supreme Court's decision on the Speaker's application was not complied with. To that extent, they can proceed on that path.
Can I just say this?
Quickly,
please. You see, Parliament, from my experience, work based on procedures. And these procedures are, as a matter of fact, can even be sent to court. Parliamentary procedures can be sent by anybody to court that Parliament is not obeying the procedures. Now, when anybody, a body so authorized like the Supreme Court, gave an order, members of Parliament cannot be seen to be applying the thing hop, step, and jump. A formal communication will have to be given by the person that has been authorized to give such kind of information, and that is the Speaker of Parliament.
And it's on that point that I just, Mr. Chair, can you hear me now? Mr. Thatcher, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
That Supreme Court order, how was it supposed to be carried out in the House by the Speaker? Was it that even in your absence, he was supposed to just go ahead?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Hello?
Listen carefully. The Speaker is acutely aware of the Supreme Court. Hello? Hello?
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you clearly. I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying that, yes. Okay, thanks. Yes, thanks for indulging me. You see, let me make it very clear. It is a very dubious posture. But
cut him off.
Who says he wants to respect the rule of law, that is not aware of the decision of the convenience in the process. If he was not served with any process, how come that my good friend, when
hello? No. Okay.
The decision. Let's be serious about what is going on. Up and move the Supreme Court that the decision should be set aside, and the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction. That the status quo should remain, and that the NDC are not qualified to sit. That will be the basis of the contempt. But I don't know whether there's a decision which has been taken that the Speaker should be cited for contempt.
Well, but I just wanted to also draw attention that the Speaker acknowledged, well, because you were absent on the floor on Thursday, he did indeed make reference to. But I was asking the specific question of how the Supreme Court order was supposed to be carried out in Parliament. What was the process, or what is the procedure for the implementation?
The Supreme Court order, you see, the Supreme Court order is clear in its terms that go and revert what you did. Let the majority sit where they sit, and let the minority sit where they sit. It's as simple as daylight. And let the four members of Parliament continue with their business.
That's clear. I'm asking you how that was supposed to be done by Parliament, in Parliament.
It was supposed to be, it was supposed to be done by the Speaker. The Speaker is the one presiding over the meeting. Yeah, and if the Speaker will just ignore what the Supreme Court has said, to sit where the majority is. That is in the concept. That's so clear. I'm not suggesting that the Speaker is order of a court of competent jurisdiction. Contempt. And if you say that there is a supremacy of the
I say we would reconnect for the last time and
there's
stay with.
nothing like the Speaker being an extension of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
At all.
All right, but then again, could the Speaker have done this?
So at all, everybody.
Yeah. Mr. Chacha, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Samala Chacha, can you hear me? We would rectify that connection, and then yes, he's made a point. I'm going to ask him the last and final question. Mr. Chacha, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. Could the Speaker have done?
Hello.
Could the Speaker? Yes, I can hear you now. Could the Speaker have carried out this order even in your absence? In your absence, when the House was not properly constituted to do business?
Of course.
I see.
Certainly. Of course, the Speaker should have said, yes, the Speaker should have said, please, can you move to where you are supposed to stay? I want to respect the Constitution. That say you are a Christian, but you don't believe in the Bible. There's nobody above the Constitution, including the Speaker. I'm telling you that by operation of law, the office of the Speaker is the creation of the Constitution. It therefore becomes a very pathetic contradiction that what gave you your authority, you are disrespecting. That is sad.
Okay.
And then I've heard people talking about, judicial tyranny.
Alfred, keep him.
How is the judicial tyranny in this matter?
But what is
the Speaker says, I will not.
Mr. Chacha, yes, what's the status of the three MPs on your side? What's their status now in this Parliament?
They are sitting members of Parliament. Yes, they are sitting members of Parliament.
On whose
we're talking about those who are
on whose ticket? They are still sitting
on our side, of course,
of MPP MPs.
On the ticket of the New Patriotic Party.
I see.
Yes.
If that's the case,
except the one who is independent. Yes.
If that's the case, does that not violate your own party's constitutional provision, specifically about the forfeiture of your membership of the party? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Chacha, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now, sir.
Great. Now, you are saying that
can
they
you
are...
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
You are saying that they are still sitting members of the NPP. And I was asking you that if that is the case, are they not violating the party's own constitution on the specific provision about the forfeiture of membership? Because your party's constitution is clear that a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate, when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership of the party.
There is no automaticity about this.
That's what your constitution says. The party. That's what your party constitution says. I read your party constitution.
Listen. That is not the intent. And let me also tell you, even if that is the interpretation you want to put on it, the sun is superior to the lantern. What is the party's?
That is why the political party's constitution.
Okay. Lawyer Tacha will rectify that connection. I need an answer to that question. Yes, Lawyer Matipebu, quick one.
Yeah, so this matter, you see, let's understand it. You know, when we come here, there's always one thing we should repeat so that people understand. You always hear them say two lawyers. It's very often you give a provision or a law to two lawyers, they read it and they have different interpretations, different opinions. And generally in a democracy, varying diversity of opinions. So that's the background. So you can see that obviously I don't agree with Honorable Atachia. He says there is a basis, but I would go with his other statement that he's not aware of any official decision. If there was a basis, real basis, there would have been a decision to go forward. It's because they know that really this case, this cannot pass muster. Contempt against speaker. It's laughable. Very preposterous. Just like the way he says there are juvenile arguments.
What is Tacha saying?
Such a suggestion is preposterous. That's what we should be saying.
No, what
because you're going to cite the speaker for contempt. What has he done? What has he done? Now,
okay,
let's go.
But he wanted to make an intervention. Yes.
Yes, my brother people, you should bear in mind that we are in a political space and we want to secure harmony. It is not one to understanding of contempt. But how would you want to say that you are trying to take your time because of, excuse me to say, the harmony of the constitutional space? Not for want of, excuse me to say, a right to cite for contempt. Please don't confuse the two. Nobody is interested in messing up the speaker. I have to tell you this. I do not think it is even sensible for MPP to disturb the speaker. To respect the Constitution. That is all there is that we're talking about. How can any serious speaker say that they're to mess up Parliament? When I read it, I said, oh my God, this is a man that I defer to, you know, and I still defer to him. Very deep man, intelligent man. What has come over him? I don't understand it. Where is the collusion? The judiciary is good. When they lose, the judiciary is bad. I've heard people talking about the judiciary, and I'm always laughing. Now look, when Justice Atukuba said the MPP
okay.
I mean, we've not won. The judiciary was very good. When the ambulance case, I mean, was determined, they said, oh, the Court of Appeal, and there was 2-1, they said the Chief Justice, before you see the judge, run. And when you lose, you know what to do. And my problem with the speaker is that, why did he send sorry to the chamber? He disrespected. If that is not the forum to adjudicate matters so that there is harmony in the realm, if he was a law unto himself, why did sorry go to the Supreme Court? For what? So please, if there is any problem that is going on, it is coming from the speaker. And let's tell him so.
Well,
I don't see how Atatia, for the world of me, would have gone to sit on the speaker's chair. What will be the I am the speaker. I go and sit on the chair. How would you take it? I mean, it's going to be a big fight. And MPP, we are too wise to go and fight in the highest forum for legislative deliberation. You won't go there. They didn't. They left. They didn't come to the chamber.
Okay. I see.
Take the stage for a fight. That's what it means. Well, get out of my seat, and then it becomes war. Let's be decent. Let's be decent and stop playing with issues as if somebody is disturbing the speaker.
Okay.
Disturbing the speaker.
But I asked you a specific question about the status of these MPs.
The speaker.
No, Mr. Thatcher.
He's our speaker. The operation of law. You should also know one important thing.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I will tell you my understanding of what we are reading, and you are also entitled to understand. I'm saying that whatever interpretation you want to place on the constitution of a party, it can never override whatever is being read, which is inconsistent with.
So you take the position that the constitution of the NPP is inconsistent. Now it's inconsistent with the constitution of Ghana. I see.
What is the constitution saying? They are talking about the election. Go and read Article 97. Well,
no.
So there was
I know the details of the article you are quoting. I make reference to the article .9, page 16 of your party's constitution. Those are two different things.
Why don't you find the constitution, no matter the spin you want to put on it, can never override the provisions in Article 97
okay,
of
Mr.
Ghana's
Chacha,
constitution.
Mr. Chacha, this is not a spin. I just read the constitution of your party to you. It's not a spin.
That is not my understanding of it.
That's not your understanding that
you are for the first time.
So
yes, it is my understanding that whatever interpretation. Okay, let me withdraw the word spin. Whatever your your intellectual appreciation of party's constitution, it can never override Article 97.
So are you saying that now your party's constitution is null and void based on your position now, that you rather revert to the constitution?
I have not said so. I have not said so. I'm saying that the sun is shining. I don't want to light a lamp. You are wrong. The sun is the constitution. Go to the constitution. Whatever the party's constitution is saying, you put whatever interpretation you want to put on. I'm saying that when you pay regard to Article 97, people.
Okay, well, I think your point well made. Point made.
Not related to the elections.
It's a bit crunchy. Yes, it's a bit crunchy, but you made your point.
I'm sorry about
Let Matbebo conclude on the point that you're making. Thank you, but I know he's still doing the listening, but yes.
So let me put in this one statement and then go on to it. I understand the Cecilia Dapa matter. Shraj is about concluding their investigations into it.
Perfect.
So very soon we'll hear from Shraj. We hope it goes well, right? So now, as I stated earlier, this thing, we are debating, so there will be diversity of opinion. But if you look at it objectively, the Speaker has not done anything contemptuous of the Supreme Court decision. Now, when you say contempt, then it means that the person has done something willful. Willful. What willful conduct has a Speaker engaged in? That is contemptuous. The Supreme Court says his decision has been what? Suspended. So there is that stay of execution. So you are required to come into the chamber. Even before then, you had Honorable read Order 216. Before this day, a business committee meeting was to be held. You didn't do so. You didn't present anything before Parliament. So that is where the case will fall apart. So what happened there? That was not a sitting of Parliament. That was not a sitting of Parliament. Okay. They just got it. Because you didn't lay the prerequisites. Before there is a sitting, you do what? You get an order paper. Was there an order paper? Viewers, look at it. Look at it. Before there is a sitting, there has to be an order paper. Was there one? Was there one? If you are counting 1, 2, 3, if you don't count 1, can you go to 2?
No.
So this one is this is no case at all. I told you that just keep focus. What they are doing is throwing red herrings. Let's continue debating. The more we debate, then the more they go back and try to gather the numbers. They don't have the numbers now, so they had to do something to get us talking. That's all that there is to this case. Once you don't have an order paper, what were you coming to do? And what does Honorable Atachian say? He says he wasn't even aware of the caucus meeting. Api Akubi, very seasoned lawyer, says he wasn't aware. So at what point did you decide to organize a caucus meeting? That in this day and age, you don't have a WhatsApp platform involving all the NPP MPs. Don't you have one where you would have put on that common platform that there is a caucus meeting? It's a rules. I mean, politicians sometimes just take us for fools. What meeting do you organize that somebody like Api Akubi is not aware? What meeting do you organize that somebody like Honorable Atachi and your very good self, very distinguished lawyer, you said it that you were not aware of that meeting? Is that a proper meeting? So there just a few cock and bull stories have been cooked up just to divert attention. Honorable Atachi and you, stalwart like you were not invited to that meeting. What meeting can that be? Atachi, with all your weight, all the distinguished scholarship, law, everything, you were not invited. What meeting can that be? Api Akubi, also a lawyer, right? Not invited. What caucus meeting can that be? It's a ruse. You just didn't have the numbers. Eat humble pie. I hate it when politicians try to gaslight us. We can see you didn't have numbers.
But did you also have the numbers? Some of the NDC members of Parliament are trouble.
I'll give you cocoa. Now you see cocoa costs what? 8 cedis. So can you see this cocoa? Cocoa 5 cedis, milk 3 cedis. Look at it. That's 8 cedis. We haven't talked about bread and the rest. I'll give you cocoa.
Clearly, listening
but it doesn't mean
I don't see how anybody will want to cite the speaker for contempt. If I were them, maybe if I want to test, the first line of test is to have asked.
Who said the speaker will be cited for contempt?
Well, that's what you are saying.
So that is what you are saying. That's what Katie Hammond is.
That's why your people are saying. That they should have, the first thing they should have done, is to have asked maybe 1 or 2 of the 4 to come into the chamber and let the speaker order the marshal to say that, marshal, walk those 2 out. Then you can then say that the speaker was disrespecting the orders from the court. But you did not do that. These 4, none of them have entered the chamber since those things have been given. It is you, the MPP group, that have refused to come into the chamber. As to where we sit, Atachia should tell me which constitutional or standing order provision that talks about where we sit. So you come to the floor. If you feel like someone has taken your place, then you raise that matter on the floor.
You have occupied the
you raise, come into the chamber. There is space, just like you did on the midnight of 6 January. Come. Then you raise the matter. When you raise that matter before Mr. Speaker, that based on the orders of the Supreme Court, we think that we are in the majority. And if we are in the majority, we are supposed to be occupying this side of the house based on convention. But there are some other persons occupying there. So, Mr. Speaker, we are calling on you to order for the right thing to be done. You refuse to come to the chamber. You don't even come to do anything. You call us for business. You don't have the numbers. You are now lying to Ghanaians that, and you were in this caucus meeting, and you were in this, and you were that, and you are waiting for speaker
Didn't you see
to order, waiting for, you waiting for speaker to order people to leave where they are before you come in. The speaker has not done anything that is contemptuous of what? The Supreme Court. Even though I disagree with Supreme Court trying to interfere in the process and procedure of Parliament, the Speaker has not done anything. If you want to say that maybe by your understanding that someone was sitting on your seat, then it is those who are sitting on your seat as you claim. If the Supreme Court can show us any constitutional provision that says that the MPP side should sit where they are sitting, then they should come and cite those of us sitting there for contempt, or even our own standing orders. If they can show us any provision that says that that is where you sit, then they should come and cite us for contempt. Okay. There is no provision in the Constitution that talks about where a side sits. So come to the House. If you have the numbers, come to the House.
Okay.
And let's work there. But you don't have the numbers.
Mr. Game, please, finally, before we go quickly. And in the end, there has to be a truce or a solution to this. You don't see the solution within the remits of the law or of the courts, of the law for that matter. You want Parliament to deal with this, but has Parliament so far exhibited that, I mean, if I talk about Parliament, let's say MPP, NDC caucus, sitting together with the Speaker and any other persons like yourself to mediate this matter for an amicable solution?
Honestly, I will not say I'm disappointed, but the point is that because I foresaw that they will never on their own be able to collaborate and come down from high horses to be able to engage and have a conversation, a civilized conversation to enable them resolve this matter on their own. Hence, I wrote to them. And I'm happy, as I mentioned earlier, that some of them have started reaching out to me. Mm-hmm. The leadership at the leadership level called me on the phone and sent me messages and saying that they are open to mediation. Even if the Supreme Court gave an order explicitly that, look, this is the way it is and this is the final ruling, you need each other. You must collaborate. Parliament is a place for collaboration. If they fail, it's just like marriage. If Lawyer Kwebu's and the wife are having problem, God forbid you shouldn't have, and they should go to court, what they are looking for is a letter of divorce or certificate of divorce. Even if the court gave an order that go back and stay together, there will be no collaboration in the House. Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. Parliament need to collaborate. I've spent 8 years there, and I do know the in and out of it. And so let me be very clear. The way out is for them to agree voluntarily for a mediation process. If they cannot do it themselves, somebody with a mediation mindset will have to sit between them and help them out. Well, that's just the bottom line.
And this is coming from the former Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, correct? You served as an MP for North Tongue for 2 terms.
Yes.
Great. Austin Game is now a Labour expert and a former minister as well. And this is why I'm going to take this quick break. When we're back, we'll deal with the conversation of the economy, cost of living, and matters arising. Mr. Tachia, thank you very much for joining us. Samuel Tachia is a Member of Parliament, also former Minister for Works and Housing, joining us here on Key Point. After this, we'll also have Professor Dr. Bobkin join us, also Dr. Abdul Ganiu, who is a technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance, will also be joining us for this conversation on the economy. Stay with us.
The victory of Muhammad.
Greetings to you all. My name is Wanda Victor Kuto. I am a lawyer by profession and a National Executive Committee member of the NDC. As we approach the December 7th election, I urge you all to vote John Mahama. I believe in the National Women's Bank. Ghanaians have accepted this policy proposal.
Because it is private say John Mahama obe winning no one fan
enya mbankwa na ebeboa mu ebeboa obibia so obibia mbombodi say obetu abama John Dramani Mahama.
It's time to reset Ghana with a trustworthy leader, and JM is that leader to vote for. Akpenami, Midamwasi, Yenyiwaladon, Nagode.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs, scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums. Choose natural. Choose Colgate Charcoal. This advert is FDA approved.
My life wasn't always like this. I worked in a bank and had money in bonds to cushion me for the future. Then, with a stroke of a pen, my life was destroyed. My bank was part of the 420 financial institutions which the MPP government recklessly collapsed. What was to become the life of the workers? No one in this insensitive government cared. And suddenly, I was jobless. Their incessant borrowing also led to a debt restructuring program that affected me, and just like that, a significant portion of my lifetime investment vanished. Even worse, my lifetime savings from 30 years of hard work has been rendered useless due to the continuous depreciation of the cedi and extremely high cost of living in the country. Now, look at me. The fruits of my toil and sweat have all gone down the drain because of bad leadership. What to eat with my children is even a struggle. God, help me and the many who share in my pain. Let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. Change must come.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
I'm a Ghanaian and I love luxury accredited faith and I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana. Peaceful election before, during, and after.
One Ghana. Peace. Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana Bakumpe.
This message brought to you from the luxury accredited faith.
Champion.
All be lie.
Thank you, boss. See you next week. Yo, where is my passport? Where is my passport? Yo, man, I want to Waba.
Who's
and then it's special.
Give me my passport. You made me pay for express for 24 hours and yet it's not in.
You told me that you are telling me this. What's going on? Hello.
This man here has taken my money. That within 24 hours, he'll do my passport for me.
Oh, see, that's the same thing applies to me. He told me last night, he's telling me this week. Process. That's what they do. Yeah. Oh, madam. Please relax. I'll get for you in 24 hours.
Hey, Guru man. So you never change? Eh? You get passport for someone within 24 hours, Madam Obwa. See, the normal working hours is 9 to 5. Eh? Not 24 hours, yeah, I'm fat. You guys have made a very big mistake by trusting these people. Now, through digitalization, passport application has been made so easy. Now, you don't need to stress yourself and join any long queue for your passport. All you have to do is to log on to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and begin your application. By buying a passport application voucher online. Simple and easy. And very soon, all you need to get your passport will be your Ghana card. Hey, what is it true? Yeah, Obiza. It is possible.
Esuro. Vote number 1 on the ballot.
Mentor, this Sunday, November 10th, 2024 at 8 p.m., we're celebrating the vibrant and diverse music of Africa. Our talented contestants will pay homage to legendary African artists, delivering powerful performances that will take you on a musical journey across the continent. At least 2 contestants will say goodbye. Cast your votes for your favorite contestant before 7 p.m. on Sunday, November 10. Mentor, the world awaits you.
Mentor 13 is powered by Shaltox Lozenges.
Sponsored by Darling Lemon Drink, Darling XYZ Wine, Blue Jeans Energy Drink, Enapa Foods, Frutelli Calipo, Obuasi Nubunawo Mwanka.
Welcome back, gentlemen. Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. A number of your messages, and I acknowledge them as well. The Boaka South Member of Parliament, Samuel Tachia, is also a private legal practitioner, joined us on Zoom earlier. We're going to have another guest joining us from the government side, by extension the MPP, on the conversation of the economy. But a number of your messages have come through now. This one here says, good morning, Alfred. We are where we are because of extreme partisan arrogance by the parties in government. Long time when this parliament got hanged, great brains, including Dr. Rashid Rahman, had called on MPs, particularly the MPP, to be decorous and use negotiation and diplomacy to conduct their business as a way to ensure smooth government business. Sadly, that they took to the side of showing pride and power, and here we are. This matter is simple with sobriety. I agree entirely with Austin Game and Martin Pebu. Mohammed from Salaga, thank you very much. This one here, okay, November 2020. You sent me a full statement. Okay, thank you. It says, Alfred, the question that you asked Samuel Tachia is spot on about the reference to the MPP's constitution and its provision. Is that to say that now the position he has taken, because you have asked a question that they cannot answer, now that their constitution and its provisions on the forfeiture of membership is null and void? Wow. It says, good program. Thank you. Theo says, good morning, Alfred. I wonder why the Speaker can't summon the two leaders to his office to resolve this matter. It seems like a quick fix that could be settled in a minute. However, considering the current state of affairs, I think it's futile to expect improvement. Perhaps we should just dissolve Parliament and let members focus on their campaigns. You'll say, I think that's the point that Martin Pebu was making. He says, this one here from Dr. Kwame Asani says, it is true that a number of the MPs are in their constituencies. Their focus now, less than 30 days to the election, is to secure their seats. This back and forth happening in Parliament is none of their core business, as you put it. Thank you. This one here says, the Speaker is a solid rock. We couldn't have had a better Speaker now. Please tell Martin Pebu that seriously, okay. Good morning to you too as well. And the Apiakubi sends a message saying that all is well. And he had to quickly attend to a matter in his constituency this morning. So that is just for the information of you, our viewers. This one here says, when does Mr. Game think he can use his method to resolve this issue when the Supreme Court is going to deliver judgment on Monday? Says, Alfred, good morning. Please ask Samuel Atachia, how does a sitting place in Parliament benefit his constituents in dealing with government business, which has been described as urgent? Hadi from Pig Farm says, good morning, Alfred. When it comes to Jachekwesin and Sal cases, the people did not deserve representation, but in the ruling of Speaker declaring some parliamentary seats vacant, the Supreme Court thinks the people deserve representation. Since when has the law been used as a tool to threaten citizens, you say? Thank you very much. And this one here, okay, a number of them. Thank you very much for the messages that have come through. And I really do appreciate the almost 2,000 messages this morning on our first matter of conversation. Our next issue is the state of the economy. And rightly so, because a number of surveys and also the polls show that the economy is number one when it comes to the 5 key issues that would inform voter decisions. And we're going to put that on the screen right now. There are about 4 surveys now. The Global Info Analytics shows that the economy is number one. Jobs, obviously, these are intertwined. You cannot have a growth in the economy and also not have jobs being created. In fact, in this country, we've had jobless growth at some point. And so that's why you see jobs coming in just after the economy and education, roads, healthcare. The NCC survey also captured employment, jobs in there, and the economy in the first 5 key issues for voters. Afrobarometer survey also has unemployment as number 1, the economy in there as well, the top 5. The CODEO, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers pre-election report also captured unemployment as number 1, and then the economy in there as well. So it is not out of place that we spend some time to just about 27 days to election day, 28 days to election day, December 7, to talk about this all-important matter to the voters, that is the economy. What is the state of your personal economy? Professor Godfrey Bofkin is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School, respected finance analyst across the world. Professor Godfrey Bofkin, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers, and good morning to my bosses.
You are the boss. The economy is in your hands. The economics,
you have the economy right in front of you. And it's tempting all of us.
When you are making your point, you show it. Also, let me welcome Dr. Abdul Ganeo, who is a technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Ghana, also member of the MPP. Dr. Abdul Ganeo, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning for having me, Alfred, and good morning to everyone.
I would also be joined by a data scientist. He's joining us from Canada, a good friend of mine, Alfred Appiah. Alfred, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Alfred, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. Now, so I want to start off with you, Dr. Ganeo. Now, to the extent that we've seen, in fact, your boss, the finance minister, makes reference to the indicators of the economy trending towards pre-COVID, that's indicators or statistics. And then also we've had the flag bearer of your party, and by extension the vice president, talk about jobs that have been created, because the fulcrum of every economic growth should be the jobs that have been created. This 2.6 million jobs have been created. Do you believe it? Do you have basis for this particular statistic that the vice president put out there?
Well, I think that we have to understand that once an economy grows, certainly it creates jobs. So the statistics that the vice president has put out regarding job creation is certainly true. We have come from quite a difficult period that everyone understands. Anytime I mention that, we will be told that it is overflowed. You know, the kind of impact that COVID had on the economy. But beyond that, every indicator of the economy shows that the economy has rebounded very strongly. We indicated that we have turned the corner around the media review of the 2023 budget. And since then, the positive trajectory has been on. And as we speak, for example, if you look at the first and the second quarter growth of the economy, it has been highly significant.
I see.
And to the extent that this has been quite consistent for the year, or should tell everyone that indeed the economy is growing. And once an economy is growing, certainly it is creating more jobs.
But here's where the concern is. If you look at the breakdown of exactly where we are seeing growth, as you made reference to, the mining sector, right, is contributing a chunk to the GDP growth rate that we are seeing now. How many Ghanaians have a stake in the mining sector? And how has this growth trickled down to the personal economies of people? Because the cost of living is still high for people.
Well, Alfred, you shouldn't look at only the mining sector. The industrial sector is made up of a number of subsectors, and the average growth for the second quarter was 9.3%. And indeed, aside from industry, you also need to look at growth in agriculture and also growth in the services sector. The agricultural sector, for example, grew by 5.4% in the second quarter. And then also the services sector grew by 5.8%. Now, if you look at that second sector growth, the average growth was 6.9%. Then the first quarter growth was 4%. So registering an average of about 5.5% over the 2 quarters. It is on the basis of this that we have had to revise the GDP growth target twice this year alone. By the mid-year budget review of this year, we had revised it to 3.1% from a 2.8% growth target for 2024. And just last review by the IMF staff, for example, we have been able to revise growth to about 4.1% again for the year 2024. So that certainly tells that the economy has grown for 3 quarters.
I see.
And the trajectory is that forward to the end of 2024, we expect a much higher growth compared to 2023, compared to 2024, when we actually got the aftershocks of the COVID pandemic, moving from what was supposed to be a health pandemic now into an economic crisis that the whole world has to undergo for the year 2021 and 2022. So the trajectory is that the economy has been growing, and once it continues to grow, certainly it creates jobs. And that's where we are at the moment.
It's on that point that, so you say that you believe that the 2.6 million jobs Dr. Bawumia talks about has indeed been created. It's a reflection of the fact.
Exactly. It's certainly at the end of the day, if an economy is not growing, certainly it doesn't create jobs.
Okay.
So once the economy begins to grow, and you can see that across all the subsectors, whether it is industry, it is agriculture, it is the services sector, then certainly it tells that it is adding more jobs.
Because you are the finance ministry, because you are the finance ministry, this 2.6 million that Dr. Bawumia talks about, what's the source of that data?
I cannot exactly tell you where that is coming from. At the end of the day, an economy is made up of many sectors.
No.
And at the end of the day, you have various ministries, departments, and agencies.
Dr. Ganiyu, so Dr. Ganiyu, you first indicate that you cannot tell me the source of that data.
No. When you are asking for a specific source, that would be inappropriate, right? Government of Ghana itself is a source in the sense that you have ministries, departments, and agencies. And at the end of the day, jobs that have been created across the MDAs are what you pull together to provide an indication of how many jobs have been created. And that is what it says. So if you are looking for a published source, for example, that can be problematic. And
that should be easily verifiable, because there must be a published source. For instance, if that specific, if there's a specific, I'm coming to a point, Dr. Ganiyu. If there's a specific amount, there's a specific statistic that's put out, 2.6 million. The vice president was consistent and very clear in his words that the last time he checked the data. So he's making reference to a data source that 2.6 million jobs have been created.
He made reference to the data. The data here coming from the various ministries. coming from the various departments and coming from the various agencies of government. So you cannot have a specific source that you say, this is where I'm taking it from. At the end of the day, government or the whole process of governance is coordinated. So when ministry, departments, and agencies are creating jobs, it all comes to a certain point. And that is basically what the reference is. So whether it is at the level of the Ministry of Employment, for example, that this data can be found, that can easily be the case. But
I see.
You have government institutions across the place that are engaging in the employment of Ghanaians on a daily basis. So at any point in time, you have to be able to collate all of this before you can tell how many jobs have been created over the period. So that's the point I'm making to you.
Okay. So Dr. Bawumia met the media on the 25th of August. You remember that?
Yes.
During that meeting, a specific question was asked about the number of jobs created. He mentioned between 2.1 to 2.3 million jobs as of the 25th of August. Then last week, Sunday, when he met the youth, he put out this figure of 2.6 million jobs. Does that mean that between August and last week, which is the 1st of November, you've created about over 300,000 jobs?
Alfred, the thing about the job creation is that it's on a date. Perhaps at the time Dr. Bawumia was quoting between the 2.1 and 2.3 million jobs, it is possible that more jobs were even created that had not been brought to his attention yet. And that is possibly why he gave you that particular range. So it is an ongoing process. You will see various ministry departments and agencies getting clearance on a regular basis from the Ministry of Finance to be able to employ people. So it is either they are in the process or they have already gone through the entire process and have engaged people. So it becomes very difficult for you to put a specific number to it. And that is why he gave you that range. So if from then up to now, later statistics or data have shown that 2.6 million jobs have now been created, he puts it out. And it is even possible that from next week, that number could change as well. So job creating is an ongoing process. And as MDA are engaging Ghanaians, actually that data will continue to change.
Well, Dr. Ganiu, hold on while and I needed answers to these specific questions, and this is where Professor Bob can bring in, because even though Dr. Ganiu talks about no specific data source for these 2.6 million jobs, Alfred is going to run through the data for us, but we looked at 5 data points. For instance, SNIT is number one. It's an area to look at. Ghana's Statistical Service data is another. Does this, based on what you know, support the position that some 2.6 million jobs have been created?
Well, thank you very much. I hold a different view. Okay. To the extent that the source hasn't been given, of course, there are multiple sites that you can make references to, Senate and all of that. But let me just say that the traditional view had been that focus on growth and employment is a logical outcome. So once the economy is growing, it's almost certain to assume that jobs are being created, employment is being generated. We've moved away from that.
Right.
The trickle-down effect, it hasn't happened. And that is why beyond pursuing economic growth, you must be deliberate about policies that will create employment, especially in the formal wage economy. In Ghana, an analysis that have been done indicate that the growth-employment relationship is not as strong as you see it in the literature. And that whether you use the arithmetic computation or even econometric analysis, you get the impression that the employment response to growth is not contemporaneous, so to speak. It's not that direct. And that is why these days in the literature, and even from the IMF that focuses more on macroeconomy, heavy on statistics, are adding to that line job-rich growth, that it is possible to have growth without or adequate jobs or employment. So these days we are talking about job-rich growth. It requires a certain intentionality to spell growth from the labor-intensive subsectors of the economy. That is the angle to look at it from. But again, if the growth is job-rich, it should not only reflect in the database of SNET. It should not only reflect in the database of Ghana Statistical Service. It should also reflect in our tax-paying population database with GRE. So the question I've been asking myself since this came onto the fore is that, okay, are all these people captured in the tax-paying bracket?
That's if 2.6 million.
Yeah, because the essence of creating jobs is that it's also impact your revenue envelope from direct income tax. So if you look at the data, as at now, the tax-paying population in terms of active personal income taxpayers is just around 2.3 million.
2.3
million, yeah. You can't add CDs to that. We are talking about human beings, right? Okay, so it's just around 2.3 million. So the question is, these 2.6 million jobs that have been created, are they paying taxes?
So this 2.3 million is
cumulative.
Cumulative.
I mean,
that is before 2017.
All of us. But including you, all of us who have been employed even before probably 1992, let's put it that way, and are still working.
So it can't be the case that 2.6 million jobs have been created between 2017 and now.
If they have, then it means that they are not captured. They are not impacting our revenue envelope. Probably they may, I don't know how to put it, whether off-balance sheet data or whatever, but I think that there are multiple ways of fact-checking the data to see whether they are all telling the same story. And I think that that is the point that we should be looking at. And then again, so to say you have created 2.6 million jobs, that's quite heavy, right? And the impact both in terms of revenue and apart from that, in terms of even consumption-based taxes, right? Because as people exit the universities, enter the labor market, once the salaries start coming, you see that behavior, also consumption pattern would also change, all of that. So I think if you put all these things together, the vice president is somebody I respect so much, but I'm unable to confirm or assume a similar position.
Based on the facts?
Based on what I know. I could be wrong, but based on what I know.
But you're making reference to verifiable data.
Yes, and then also if you look at it from in terms of other sources of information, the unemployment rate and all of that, and the growth spell and the job rate and all of that, I think that we are not there yet.
Let's hear from the Vice President exactly what he said and the fact that he made reference to a particular data source. That's why I was asking Dr. Ganiyu what that data source is so we can all go and check. But the appears that has not been provided as yet. Take a look.
If in 8 years, with all the challenges, we were able to do 2.6 million jobs, it shows by just plain logic and reason that we will do much more than 2.6 million in the next 8 years. I expect us to go to at least if we proceed on this trajectory for the next 8 years, we should, with all of these different aspects come in, I am looking at us moving to create 4 million jobs in the next 8 years. Today he says there is no link between digitalization and the economy. Right? How can that be in this fourth industrial revolution? How can
So that's the specific statement from the Vice President Flag Bearer of the MPP about these 2.6 million jobs created. You made reference to specific data points, data sources that are publicly verifiable and we can reference. But as we speak, I've been asking a number of people, including Dr. Ganiyu this morning, about the data source of these 2.6 million jobs. We haven't received it as yet. And so we can only defer to publicly verifiable data to fact check or test exactly what the Vice President is talking about. But, Council, what's the state of your personal economy?
It's difficult to.
Why?
Extremely difficult. Because as I told you, the prices of food items, etc., have been going up, right? You remember earlier in July, I brought a tube of yam. Yes. Of course, now it's come down because we are in the harvest season, right? But see how we're buffeted from about February to about end of July. So those were very difficult months. And then in August, we started getting some of the yam. And earlier on today, you heard me refer to the incomes. There is a statistic. You know that even in the public service, majority of the workers, when you talk about the pay, it's not beyond 3,500. That's a huge number. Okay, that don't end that. And I showed how if you have lunch for 30 cedis alone, or actually it was 31 cedis, the wachi I bought, then in a month, you'll be spending 930 Ghana cedis on lunch. You haven't talked about breakfast. So if your income is 3,000 Ghana cedis, I mean, yeah, somebody will say that, and then you shouldn't have lunch for the 31 Ghana. So the more you reduce it, then the more you are getting what? Malnourished. So you see why food insecurity is such a huge problem. And look at the millions of citizens who earn less than 3,000 Ghana cedis a day. A month.
So, public sector workers.
Yes,
approximately
80%.
80% of public sector workers.
Yes.
And
less than 3,000.
Less than 3,000.
Yeah, that's the statistic. Yet, you see, in 2016, so you see my cocoa, this cocoa.
Last week you brought the
5 Ghana cedis, that's the cocoa itself. And then if you add the milk, it comes up to 8 cedis. Then you see the bread. Yeah, the kose is what? 2 cedis for each one. So if you buy 3 kose, so that's 6 cedis, and then this one 8 cedis, 14 Ghana cedis for breakfast. Yeah, 14 Ghana cedis. So you are asking people not to eat breakfast. So you heard why some jobs
So the bread is what?
The bread is 5 cedis.
And you put kose inside?
Yes. So you see why some just said a lot of millions of our citizens do 001. Yeah, no breakfast, no lunch, then you have dinner.
So this kose is how much? So
this one, that's 5 cedis.
The cocoa is 5
and then because the milk is in 8 cedis, so with our milk, it's 5 cedis.
I see.
5.
But others are selling the cocoa without sugar.
Yes.
So if you want sugar, the price may...
Okay, can you imagine? Can you imagine? So you starve citizens because I keep telling you that, look, Professor Bobkin, I've known him for decades. Those days, the little that I learned in school, business school with him, right? I tell you that this our economy, we need to stop the import dependency. If you didn't start from university, I did a bit of economics in secondary school. That's the thing. Even from JHS, it's there. If you ask them to bring the textbook, they will tell you that the bane of this economy is that we import too much. Even food, we can't cultivate enough to feed ourselves. So right from JHS, we are taught food insecurity. And it didn't start today. Then you come to SS, the same thing. Then you come to uni, right? So the thing is that when in 2016, Akufo-Addo said in 18 months, he's going to stop that structure so that we're going to have what? More poultry, more rice, right? More tomatoes. We import tomatoes from the
Gadgettsburg economy.
We import tomatoes from Burkina Faso, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Burkina Faso.
A desert country.
I can imagine. Then import onion from what? Niger. Onion, and then what? The other one, ginger. I mean, what kind of embarrassment is it? So the moment he said 18 months, he will change the structure of the economy. I believed him because I thought that we should be serious with agriculture. Now, does it strike you that for 8 years, neither Akufo-Addo nor Bawumia have even shown their personal farms? Personal farms. I'm doing a bit of piggery. So at least I have my hands in there. Myself and lawyer Jane. Okay, the younger Jane, not the old man Kwesi. Okay, we've been doing piggery for about 5 years now. So at least I can show that I'm doing something. Ask Akufo-Addo, does he have a farm? Has he ever shown a farm? Leadership by example. And that's how come when it comes to Kofi Adams' candidate, John Mahama. At least I remember in 2015 or 16, he spent his birthday on his farm, somewhere in the central region. Yeah, so when he comes back, he has to do that.
He has Greater Accra, he has Central Region. He has
Please be louder. He has JM
has farms in Greater Accra. He has farms in Central. He has farms in Savannah. He has in Northern Region. He has in Upper East. He has in Bono. So he's really someone who practically goes into.
Ask Ekufuado, which farm in 8 years? Which farm has he exhibited? So you see that it's laziness. The man has been sleeping on the job. This guy doesn't have the skill set. It's a scam. That we give you common agriculture, common farming. We can't farm. And then you say you want to be president. Wasted 8 years. 8 years. It's useless. So the personal economy is terrible. Look, I have uncles, I have cousins. Every day you open your phone, well wishers. People need money. We are suffering. This thing has to stop. So, Honorable Kofi Adams, if you guys come this time round, listen, it won't be business as usual. It won't be, because we thought Ekufuado was the last stop. We thought he could deliver here in Baumia. Baumia was there, cha. Oh, 18 months, they'll change the Gadgetsburg economy. He hasn't started. If you come, please, from day one, all of you, you should do Operation Feed Yourself. Each one of you, ministers, parliamentarians, you have to exhibit your farms. Then perhaps the unemployed youth would also be encouraged to go into agriculture. Because it appears, because we don't show, a lot of big people are not in this current parliament. Lots of the parliamentarians farm. Yeah, Apia Kubi said it. Yeah. Mutala Mohammed.
Kando is farming. Seriously. You have.
Please, I'm very sorry. I'm not farming.
Me, I'm farming.
My father has a cocoa farm, but I don't go to. I'm the only exception here.
You see, so we need to do it leadership by example. If more of us get in there, then the youth, those who are unemployed, will see that, okay, we shouldn't disrespect farming. Because the cocoa farmers, at least they make a living. Right? So that we can do something. Because every time I look, I'm like, so Baumia, for all these 8 years, he didn't know that he should bring up his farm. The media should see him go to the farm. Of course, I'm not expecting that he'll be working there 5 days a week. No. But maybe once a month, he goes there with the media. Then you broadcast it. So the youth see that, oh, even the vice president has a farm. They are there busy buying what? Expensive handbags.
Just as you said
expensive handbags. That's what Mrs. Baumia is engaging.
Problem Kando is just also saying that he has a rice farm.
Huge.
Yes, that's what. But you see, what Lawyer Martin Pebo is saying, and Professor Boken, because you made reference to, if we're even supposed to go by these statistics as I put out there, we should see a direct reflection of it in other areas of the economy, including revenue, internal revenue generation. If you look at the GRA's own statistics, it hasn't grown that much as we see it. And they are still even struggling to identify and expand the tax net, as has always been the case. So,
to the extent that the vice president has this data, then we should be able to track how it's impacting the other areas as well. Because the problem is the informality. Okay, but to the extent that we are formalizing the informal sector, then we should be able to see how all these things are linked and overall helping us to grow. Because remember that we are talking about generating more tax revenue, but we are not growing a taxable economy. We are not. It's just around 41% or so of the economy that is contributing almost 86% of the tax revenue. So the larger portion of the economy is actually not taxable. It's contributing just around 14% or so to our tax revenue. So I think that I know that because the economy is heavy, even in the US, you could see how the economy played out. Indeed. You could see how cost of living played out and all of that. Even though you could identify COVID, you could identify Russia, Ukraine, but they punished the Biden administration for what the citizens were going through. So all over the world, you realize that, yes, we recognize external factors, but voters can see nuances. Voters can see the difference between exogenous and endogenous factors. They can see that. So I think that's the issue. And in fact, if you look at the political manifestos between the two main political parties, it's very heavy on job creation.
True.
They all recognize that we are sitting on a time bomb. Look, our population growth by 2040, our population will be 45 million. 58% of that population will be less than 30 years. So what that means is that we are going to have more and more of our youth finishing free senior high school with less quality, entering the universities, entering the labor market, and we'll be looking for jobs that probably only exist in the textbook. When you see that statistics, even if you ask all of them to major in employment generation, they will end up being successfully unemployed. The economy must respond appropriately. That you cannot run away from that.
And those jobs that are said to have been created must be verifiable.
Yeah, of course.
That's just a quick one. It's a quick input. Then I'm just.
You know something? I think that we are inconsistent with this data, and we need to be very clear here. In labor, we have categories of, employment. Mm-hmm. You have temporary work, which you must properly itemize and let people know that this is a temporary work. It ends somewhere along the line. You have casual jobs, which ends somewhere along the line. You have contract of employment, which ends along the line. Then you have permanent jobs. Then you have people who are doing national service, which ends. Now, clearly, if you have employed people and you include that, let's give you a typical example of NAPCO people. If you are recording NAPCO people as people who are part of your data today, you'll be misleading the country. Because NAPCO people are now unemployed. They are clearly not part and parcel of the data. You can raise it up to a point. Temporary people, if you take the people who work in some of the, let's say the hotels, many of them work seasonally. And based upon the seasonality of the job, you can record them as being employed as casuals, as temporary people for a period. The US does the same thing. They clearly indicate that these are temporary jobs, these are casual jobs, these are contractual jobs. Because if you are constructing a road construction from here to the Jubilee House, and it will last for 6 months, do I employ people for permanency? Certainly not. So let's clearly indicate what it is. So our data is actually mixed up with all these things. So whatever we are teaching at the universities, and if you want to go with the data that we are all shouting on the rooftop about, we are actually misleading even the students.
Well, if you talk about the inconsistency in the reporting of the number of jobs created, you are not far from right. In fact, you are right, because let's put this on the screen right now. On the 10th of April, 2023, 10th April, this was a report by Daily Guide. Akufo-Addo government has created 2.3 million jobs in the last 6 years. This was as of 2023. It was a bulking. Let's flip to the next one. That includes in 2020, specifically the 2nd of March 2020, the former Deputy Employment Minister also was reported to have said that NPP government has created 2.2 million jobs since 2017. This was as of 2020, so maybe within a 3-year or maybe 4-year period, 2.2 as of 2020. Then let's flip to the next one. Then you have the employment minister saying 5.3 million jobs have been created. This is as of 2022, September 16. So, Professor Bokin, whose report will you believe?
Because employment generation, and even employment generation is different from just jobs. Yeah. You want to be very clear about it and all of that. Because it's such a big issue, given the youthful population, given the unemployment, and given inflation, and all of that. And look, I said it here, that the crisis we've gone through is a leveling up of crisis. It's a crisis of the middle class more. Because it has affected the middle class much more than even the core poor. Because if you look at our society, the middle class acts as a cushion. So I always say that the middle class is like Liverpool. They never sleep alone. They don't wake up alone. There are so many people who make legitimate claims on your salary. So if you look at the data from the World Bank, lower middle income poverty, upper middle income poverty has been on the rise. Much higher than even the poverty at 2.15 using the 2017 purchasing power parity terms, right?
I see.
Okay, so that is where we are. So I think that politicians should also know, and managers of the economy should know, because it's a critical issue. Any data you put out there, people would want to check. Yeah. People would want to verify. So you have to go beyond just saying, we have created this. Or again, of course, the advisors and the technical advisors, the idea is that whatever you feed the vice president with, whatever you feed government with, you have to make sure that you've done all these basic checks and all that, so that you don't expose them. I think that is what we should be looking at. But overall, what we have celebrated in Ghana, in fact, in the last 20, 25 years, has been mainly jobless growth. Mainly jobless growth. Look at the data. Nearly 20% of our GDP growth has come from mining and quarrying. Job creation hasn't happened in that area. If you look at retail, in fact, if you look at the service sector, that is a leading contributor to GDP growth. In the last couple of decades, you see wholesale and retail leading significantly. That sector is not job rich. In fact, wholesale and retail is also not contributing appropriately to tax revenue. Its contribution to GDP is just around 14%, but the tax contribution is less than 5%. Okay, so when we are saying that grow a taxable economy, you are looking at being deliberate beyond just broad-based fiscal monetary policies to spell growth. You must be intentional. You must be intentional about driving growth from the labor-intensive subsectors of the economy, because that is the only way you can make growth inclusive. That's the only way you can make growth sustainable. Let me give you an example. I said it here. Between 2017, aided by oil and mining and quarrying, growth went to 8.1%. Between 2017 and 2019, Ghana was among the top 6 fastest growing economies in Sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, in 2019, the World Bank projection, including the IMF, said that Ghana's economy was going to be the fastest growing in the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa. But what do we see? Then COVID came. Because that growth didn't have resilience, COVID exposed us. And since then, our recovery has been much slower than the countries we benchmark ourselves with, even our regional peers, our structural peers, and our aspirational peers.
Those below us.
Yes, are doing much better now. Then, when you drill down like this cocoa story, look at Ghana's food inflation. You can never explain that. This is a country that is capable of feeding itself and the rest of our neighbors. If you check Ghana's food inflation, it's very high. Compare that to Cote d'Ivoire. Compare that to Kenya and the rest of them. That's unacceptable. What we are doing, and let's be real, whoever wins next year's election, the conversation will not change. We're still going to be hard on government. Because of high food prices, inflation, and our consumption-based taxes, the average Ghanaian is unable to save.
True.
From your disposable income, you are unable to save. You are spending between 42 to 44% of your income, disposable income, on food. And food inflation has been very high. In fact, between 2021, latter part of 2021 to early part of 2024, food inflation on the average was more than 40%. In fact, in some regions in Ghana, food inflation was more than 70%.
This was food growing areas. The food
Yes, the northeast one.
Yes.
This is Bono and those areas.
40% you gave works where you are skipping some meals. But if you have to eat how you have to
3
eat,
square meals a day,
then it's way higher than that. If you are skipping, you are doing maybe 101 or 001 or 010. That's where you come around the percentage you are giving.
Yeah.
But if you really want to go for a meal as a human being, the way you must eat,
3 square meal a day.
then you
starter, main, and dessert for breakfast.
You are out of the roof completely.
Look, overall, this goes round and it rather affects the nation the more. Any country that is not saving, you are not accumulating capital. And therefore, to even take advantage of the limited economic opportunities, you don't have the capital. Your capital formation is low. So you have to rely on foreign capital, okay, by revising your rules to make it more attractive, because capital will only go to where it feels loved. Then this is the game. if you look at the data over a period, we are supplying labor. The growth is only generated here, but growth is not resident here. We pound enough fufu for others to go and eat. And that is why you see positive growth, you see trade balance being positive, and yet the CD is depreciating. We don't own this economy. We are not investing in this economy. If you ask all of us here to put 50,000 on the table as a venture, a partnership, I can't raise it. I'll go to a prayer camp. I can't raise it. I can't raise it. So this is what is happening. Because we are supplying the labor, return on labor is very low. But return on capital is very high. And return on capital is going to foreigners. So you see that trade surplus is positive. Theoretically, it should contribute to the strengthening of the local currency. You are not seeing that. But then when you come to the services and income account, you see a huge outflow, which is a reflection of the low local content of your economy. We don't own this economy. We are not. All the critical sectors of this economy, higher growth, income-rich sectors of the economy, Ghana is absent. Take the banking sector. What is the local ownership in the banking sector? Take insurance. Take mining. And take oil and gas. What makes this economy Ghanaian? What is national about this national cake we are talking about? There's nothing national about it.
And we had a lot of the Ghanaian-owned banks actually being closed as well, affected by this financial sector cleanup. And in fact, even the DDEP has further impacted on a number of the Ghanaian-owned financial institutions that I am aware of. And Ms. Adams, I'll bring you in, please. Let me also engage Alfred now. Alfred, I brought Alfred in today as a data scientist because even though the number of questions I've asked about the data source of these 2.6 million jobs from government sources, they're unable to tell me. Alfred has been mining the data from the available data sources to fact check what the Vice President said. Alfred, what did we find? If you can unmute for me.
Some of the earlier points that were made, one on the economy recovering to pre-pandemic levels, right? I think it's important that we not only look at GDP growth, but also look at those indicators that actually impact people's personal economy. Because in terms of GDP growth, if you look at the seasonally adjusted quarterly data, and compare it to the period right before the pandemic, so like the 2019 Q4, when you look at the data over time, the Ghanaian economy, at least in GDP growth, started recovering a long time ago, like at least just on GDP growth. But that's not enough, right? We have to think about inflation, we have to think about the exchange rate movement, we have to think about the interest rates, all those things that actually impact people's economy when we are talking about the economy recovering. So I just wanted to make that point. But I mean, on the jobs, the interesting thing is, we keep talking about the inconsistencies in the numbers, right? Because in August, we're hearing about some 1.4 million jobs in the public sector and about 900,000 jobs in the private sector. And then now in November, we're hearing that there's about 1.2 million jobs in the public sector and about 1.4 million jobs in the private sector. So is it that within that time frame, there has been some losses of jobs in the public sector and some gains in the private sector? I think that's too short of a time for that change to be happening, right? But back to the major point, we have heard about 2.3 million jobs. Now we're hearing about 2.6 million jobs. So of course, what we have to do is we have to verify that. And I think the doctor that you were speaking to earlier from the Ministry of Finance, I think, was talking about the fact that there can be one source. I mean, ideally, the source of any labor market data should be from the Ghana Statistical Service, right? When in economies all over the world, it's at least in the developed world, they're usually referring to data from the National Stats Agency using these labor force surveys. Of course, we don't have that consistently, but ideally that should be the source of data. But here, we're hearing that 2.6 million. The Vice President was mentioning, talking about SNET and stuff. So what we wanted to do then is let's look at different sources, at least publicly available data. So the Ghana Stats Service, because we mentioned public jobs, we should also looking at the Controller and Accountants General Department. Controller alone is not enough because not every public sector worker that's paid by controller. So we also look at the state-owned enterprises who are reported on by SIGA. And that Professor Bokpen was making a good point earlier, because if we have created these jobs, we should see a reflection in the tax data. So GRA data is another source that we looked at. And then ultimately, we also look at SNET data, because the Vice President actually said that the jobs, at least from the private sector, is based on data from SNET. And so we look at that as well. And I think it's important that we also define this job, right? Because when you look at the government's performance tracker, it provides some definition of the jobs that they are talking about here. They are talking about people whose employment are sustainable, meets the tenets of decent work, especially in terms of ensuring that they have the pensions and the right at work in line with the mandate of the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. So, and I think last time, Alfred, you had put a question to somebody and they really confirmed that we are talking about the more formal jobs. Right, which is why, earlier when you had mentioned some 5 million jobs, I think at that time they may have been also even including like the jobs through like planting for food and jobs, and those are more informal agricultural types of jobs. But I think in these 2.6 million, based on what we've gathered so far, they're talking about like the more formal jobs. Yeah. So part of our checks was, like I said, the Ghana Stat Service. Let's look at the growth in the employed population. So in 2015, we had a labor force survey. That was the only time that we actually did a labor force survey. The estimated number of people that were working was about 9.3 million. We didn't have much going on. There was something in the GLSS, but we didn't have much until the Ghana Stat Service in 2022 started doing this annual household income and employment survey. Now, because the labor force survey is a nationally representative survey, and then the AHIS is also a nationally representative survey, we can use both to just figure out, like, more in a broader sense, like how has employment situation changed over time. When you look at between those two, at least up to 2023, it's about 1.5 million in the growth in the total number of employed people. This is not just formal sector jobs. This is just jobs regardless of the level of formality, right? And then the other point that I want to make is, let's look at the structure of the labor market, because if you are creating a lot of these kinds of jobs, we should see some shift in the labor market. We should see some shift in the structure of the labor market. Everybody knows that the Ghanaian labor market is largely dominated by self-employed people without employees, right? But these jobs, the ones that have pensions, sustainable, a lot of those are supposed to be formal jobs. So a lot of those, so we should see a reflection in the percentage of people that are in wage employment, right? When you look at 2017 from the GLSS and look at 2023 from the AHIS, you will see that actually the percentage of people that are in wage employment has marginally declined. Yes. Whereas the people that are self-employed without employees, which is the more informal sector jobs, has actually increased slightly. So I asked myself, if there has been about 2.3 million or about 2.6 million jobs that have been created, shouldn't that really cause a fundamental shift? Because it is estimated that about the total number of employed people in Ghana, according to the AHIS, is about 11 million, a little over 11 million. So 2.6 is almost a quarter of that. So if 2.6 is about a quarter of 11 million, it should really cause a change in the structure of the labor market. But actually, what this is showing is that the people that are in wage employment, the percentage of people that are in wage employment is actually declining. So that doesn't really support that. So then I said, okay, well, and then the other thing is, the other part of this also is, in the AHIS, they actually ask the sectors that people are working in. So when you average for 2022, and a lot of my references is 2022 because the more detailed data that we've actually received from the Vice President, which is what was breaking down the jobs by ministries, was as of 2022, right? And I mean, the 2023 now, even as of 2022, it was still about 2.25 million. So if you add, it's just about 350,000 difference that has added. So, but generally, when you look at that, you see that in the AHIS, what we are learning is in the public sector, people that work in the public sector.
Yes, because we saw a lot in the Ghana Police Service, Prison Service, Immigration Service, state-owned enterprises, trade and industry ministry agencies. That was the breakdown they gave as of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you look at AHIS, there's just about 700,000 people that say they work in the public sector. In the private sector, it's about 940,000. So you see that even that, it doesn't match up to these numbers that we're hearing about 1.4 million, 1.2 million, because what we need to prove is we need to prove that number, and then we also need to prove that the number has to be over and above those that were working in those sectors before the government took power in 2017.
Yeah.
Right. So even just looking at that, we are not even able to prove close to that 1.4 million that we are getting as new jobs that have been created, to then now factor in those that were working to get the full population of people that are actually working in these sectors. You can also look at...
So that's what you have on the screen there. So the Ghana Skill Service Survey, this is the source of the bar graph you're seeing, is the Ghana Skill Service Annual Household Income and Employment Survey, Q1 to Q4 of 2022, and that captured 722,595,000 public sector jobs and private sector 939,967 people employed in the private sector. This is Ghana Skill Service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Then, so if we can go to the next slide, then we also look at the staff strength in the Controller and Accountant General Department. And like, you know, previously when we make this argument, people say that, you know, Controller doesn't pay everybody. And that is true. Like, if you think of it, like the Ghana Armed Forces, like the police, even some of the public universities manage their own payrolls, right? But they get subvention from government to manage their payroll. And so the Controller also reports on their staff strength as well. You see the growth here. So you see that, you know, it was like from 620, you know, 2018 to now, as of 2023, it was about 804,000. Again, that is still not close to the 1.2. If it is 1.2, we are working, or if it's 1.4 million, depending on which one we can use the lower number. It still doesn't match up to that, because even if we got exactly that, we then have to take into account, okay, which people were actually working in the working and getting paid through Controller before the government took power in 2017, right? So you see that these numbers are not adding up. So people said, yeah, not everybody gets paid by Controller. So let's look at the state-owned enterprises as well. So Cocoa Board, you know, all the GMPCs, all those other companies. The SIGA reports on their staff strength there. Yeah. And when this is how it looks like over time. And even SIGA has been making some modifications to the 2019-2021 data, which I highlighted in red. But when you look at this, that is also under 100,000, right? As of this is all cumulative. As of 2023, it is under 100,000. So even if we take that number, right, assuming it's 100,000 and add it to the 800,000 that's on Controller, that's 900,000. That is still under the 1.2 million that we have now. Yeah. And then what about the people that were even working before, right? So based on the basis of GSS data, on the basis of SIGA data, and then obviously Controller data, we cannot get anything close to the numbers that we've seen bundled around as the jobs that have been created in the public sector and even overall. Then this is back to Professor Bachman's point about tax data. So this is the growth. This is the GRA data over the last 5 years, right? 2023, GRA says this is the people that are the active payee, right? So it's about 2.6 million as of the end of 2023. Or somebody say, well, that 2.6 million matches up with the vice president, what the vice president was saying. But what about the people that were working before? Are we saying that when this government came to power, there was nobody working, and then now these people have?
Yes. So the 2.6 million we see is not jobs created between 2017 and 2024.
This is the active taxpayers on the GRA.
For as long as what? From 1992 to date, or let's put it that way.
Yes, to date.
Okay. Or from Kwame Nkrumah's period to date.
Yeah, and actually a good test, right? A good test is what I even try to do is you can look at 2019. So how many jobs the vice president said have been created, right? And then look at the difference between the 2019 data and the 2020 data. See how many new taxpayers have been added, and compare it to how many jobs. You will see that the number doesn't match. You don't even get about half of that. So that tells you that number cannot, because again, you are saying that these jobs are trackable. So if these jobs are trackable, it should reflect in the taxpaying population. That is not happening. And this is even assuming that any person that comes on the tax bracket is a new job, and not that GRA has enhanced compliance or anything, right? This is all assuming that any new taxpayer is a new job that has been created by the government, which would be a very generous assumption in the first place. The other thing I did was, okay, let's look at, I took the tax data, this is the payee tax data, and then inflation adjusted it, and then look at it over time. You see it's flat, like even maybe 2020, 2023, there was a dip, mostly obviously because of COVID. But you see that generally it's not changing that much, right? Sure. So, but again, 2.6 million is a lot of jobs. So if you have done that, you should see a reflection of that in the tax revenue that you are getting from the personal income taxes. This is personal income tax data. You don't see that. Other point is on SNITs, because again, we've heard that Vice President has said that the data is from SNIT. It is verifiable from SNIT. Well, you have to look at active contributors, and SNIT, the definition of active contributors is actually very loose. SNIT says that in the previous 12 months, if there's been at least one payment for you, you are considered an active contributor to SNIT. So you look at 2016, there were about 1.35 million active SNIT contributors. At the end of 2023, there's about 1.97 million, right? So over that period, there's just been under 600,000 growth in the active tax contributors. Somebody can say, well, factor in pension, but the total number of people that are on pension is about 200,000, right? So it's not pension that is explaining this. So how come these jobs, right? These jobs that are supposed to be sustainable, they're supposed to have pension and all of that, how is that not reflecting in the active tax-paying population? So, on the basis of all these different data sources, we cannot really verify these numbers, right? And at the end of the day, it's not that the Vice President brought 2.6 million people to an auditorium and said, we have employed all these people, check. We don't have that. So what we can do is we can use all these different other data sources to try to make inferences and figure out, like, is this really reflecting? And so on the basis of these, like, we cannot verify those 2.6 million jobs.
Right. Was working quite some good work there by Alfred, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I said that before they probably put this information out there, they need to check for multiple sources, right? And all of that should be telling the same story. But otherwise, it's problematic.
The SNIT one, if you employ someone as a casual person, you are supposed to pay SNIT. And so if they capture all that, it does not make it a sustainable job as available. So you have to, ensure that you really put them in perspective. Otherwise, we'll be producing wrong data and assuming that people are still in employment. They are not.
Mr. Adams has a word on this. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, come to him. Stay with us. This is Key Point.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
The luckiest.
Star 712#.
Luckiest everywhere. 8K. Hey, you get an 8K. Get back packing so you have to Wallah. Hey, wait.
You can put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey, Google radio. We are star 712. It's much phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. And I'm with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Let's
choose buy tickets for adults.
Love you, boo boo.
Maybe straight to option 4. Now, you need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes, you can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body, Hey, there tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
Dr. Baumia once said,
the economy is going to grow and grow and grow, and we will have jobs and jobs and jobs. This is the economy of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
The unemployment rate, which stood at just 8% in 2016, has hit an all-time high of 15%. The latest 2024 Afrobarometer indicates that unemployment is the biggest problem facing the nation. You trust this liar at your own peril. Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
We all have that one friend. Always by your side for the big moments and ready to assist. He's always got his eyes on the prize and his heart in the right place. Where would we be without our BFF? This season, enjoy all 380 Premier League games with your BFF GoTV. Upgrade or reconnect to GoTV Super Plus for the discounted price of just 265 cedis today. GoTV, love it.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, #1 on the ballot.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda shows Mondays at 9 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news. Thank you very much. And this is Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. And Ms. Kofi Adams is going to come in here to make a quick point on this. And a number of your messages, this one says, great job by Alfred, and the details given there, Professor Godfrey Bocking has brought the light in the midst of all the darkness, you say. And then also my producers have checked and the status of that particular case involving Habib Idris that lawyer Matik Bebo made reference to. And also because of the current state of that particular case, we cannot associate ourselves, obviously, with that earlier comment made. But Ms. Adams, please.
Well, clearly, you could not have assembled a better personalities to deal with this subject matter that has been raised, maybe I would say, on a political platform by the Vice President, who is seeking to present information to prove that he's done a good job and therefore be given the mandate to lead. But the good the Vice President could have done to himself is to at least speak the truth. Don't keep yourself so apart from the truth, because the reality on the ground that people feel is completely different from what it is that he presents anytime he speaks to very important and clear issues. Look, the World Bank report says that over 800,000 Ghanaians have been moved into poverty level as a result of policies and programs. And consistently, they have presented data that has become so difficult for anybody to make sense out of. When the budget was read in November of 2023 for the 2024 year, they told us that private sector jobs was about what? 900,000. Then public sector was 1.4 million. Then in 2024, the Vice President now organizes a lecture at UPSC and gave us data where he said the private sector has grown by 70,000 addition to 970,000. And interestingly, the public sector had dropped from 1.4 million to now what? 1.2 million in the words of the vice president. Then, subsequently, they now launched the performance tracker. And in the performance tracker, they now tell us the private sector is now 267,000 and the public sector had jumped to 1.8 million. If you take these three figures, you clearly cannot defend the information that is put out there by this government. It's therefore not surprising that the technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Abdel Ghani, cannot even tell us the source of the data that they want to push onto us as Ghanaians to work with. So clearly, they are just packaging a misinformation. But Alfred, are you aware that a government that should be talking about proper job creation and growth, proper growth of the economy, is sponsoring an advert against a suggestion and a proposition that people would be supported to go into poultry farming? Look, I remember those days, those of us who live in Tema, when you get to all the areas called Afariwa and all those areas, it used to employ a lot of young persons in the poultry industry. The NDC administration pushed further an agenda that to import poultry, you have to invest about 40% and be seen to be buying 40% from the local sources. That forced all these persons of interest to import in investing in the local industry. All that was thrown away by this government. Today, when we're suggesting the need to go into such area that will create jobs and spare the economic, that growth that will be creating jobs, the MPP is sponsoring an advert against that. Because for them, all they think about is mining, where they will give license, legal and illegal, for people to mine in water bodies, to mine in forest reserves, and to destroy our environment. So they don't realize the need to invest in this other very critical area. Another point that I want to raise. Okay. You see, the buffer stock was intentionally created by the NDC to buy off from the farmers the surplus and stock it for release during the lean period. Today, the buffer stock has become another agency that just give contracts to persons to import foods. Import food, some of which has not been certified by Foods and Drugs Authority, and is supplied to schools under school feeding program. This is what is happening. Buffer stock that was established to play a critical role that will spare agricultural growth is now performing completely something different. And the NDC administration will relook into this and reposition buffer stock so that people who decide to go into farming will not suffer to sell their produce. There will be market, there will be processing, and what have you. And that is where more jobs will be created in the agri sector, in the processing, and what have you. And when we talk then, you will see real job creation, not the Baumia audio jobs. Okay. Not the Baumia audio jobs. As he should spare us those bold lies he presents as bold solutions. He should spare us.
Well, Mr. Kofi Adams, thank you. And Alfred Techi is a data scientist who joined us from, Alfred Techiapia is a data scientist who joined us from Canada. Alfred is going to be with us for the next 3 sessions before the elections, and Professor Godfred Bobkin as well. Next week, we have a conversation on the DDEP. Was it a necessary evil, or one that the Finance Ministry can also refer to as a success? Professor Godfred Bobkin, really do appreciate you as always, making the time to be here. And this morning, I was clothed by Colgra Clothing, the best version of you. Colgra Clothing, C-O-L-G-R-A. Locate them on the Sprinters Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station, ground floor, same building with the Ghana Made store. Call them on 0244 238 341. 0244 238 341 or on WhatsApp 0500 9099. Choose Kogra Clothing, choose right. The number is 0244 238 341. On behalf of the rest of the team, appreciate you. Mr. Game, thank you so much for coming. Ms. Adams, thank you for coming. Also,
thank you.
Professor Godfrey Buckman, appreciate you. Also, Lawyer Martin Bebu, thank you. And we also have, and here joining us on Zoom, Samuel Atachia, and then also Dr. Abdul Ganiyu, all members of the MPP. And then also the lawyer Kingsley Amwakwa Buedu is also a member of the MPP. All three of them joined us virtually. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you so much for staying with us here on Key Point. Have a great weekend. Join us same time next week. I'm Alfred Okanse.
It's time for you to hear the message of the gospel that will sit down into you and you will develop Christ.